One Piece Treasure Box System, Chapter 1081-1100. Chapter 1081 _ Fame and fortune are in danger, wealth and wealth are in danger. This is not the most exciting thing for Roha, but the most exciting thing in his heart is that this thing actually carries a bit of human luck. Before coming to the westward journey to the world, Roha might not have been aware of the role of luck, but he just heard that the son of luck is a lot of bullshit. But when he came to this world, after some popular science by Aokun, he knew what that thing was. It's important. In the Battle of Conferred God, why did Intercept cult lose? That's because the 4 swords of immortal execution of the Tongtian cult master are weapons for killing and cannot suppress the luck, and the 3 treasure jade Rui level is not enough to suppress such a big sect. It is said that the right time and place are right for people, and many times luck has a direct impact on these 3. If you have a lot of luck, your fellow Taoists will save him before you get on the list of gods. Get up, if the luck is strong. How could Wen Zhang happen to enter Julong Ridge with bad luck and be burned to death? The various reasons seem to be coincidental, but in fact they are closely related to luck. This kind of thing is really mysterious, and I am afraid that even the saints can't fully figure it out. The human race is the protagonist of the current world. The fate of the human race is self-evident. Even if there is only a trace, it is a great thing. Tisk tisk, great harvest. Roha exclaimed in admiration, this thing is completely multi-purpose, and it is really profitable to open this kind of thing from the fairy treasure chest. Kill my sect, boy, let me see where you are going. The bloodless Taoist's voice echoed in the air above the station of a valve, and his voice was full of violent emotions. Now that the 2 great formations have been completely sacrificed, with the blessing of the remaining elders of the Blood Transformation Sect and Corpse Refining Sect, it seems that the surrounding space has been completely blocked. After the Bloodless Taoist and the sect master of the Corpse Refining Sect looked at each other, they walked towards Roha's location together. Cut, it disturbs people's interest. Roha only looked at the introduction of the attributes of Deu's gossip furnace, and before he had time to take a closer look at the furnace's appearance, he was disturbed by the 2, and rolled his eyes helplessly. At the place where the 2 disciples were originally stationed, there was still a diamond treasure chest that was not put away at this time. Roha looked at the surrounding black and red formations, shook his head, and urged Shining to come to the diamond treasure chest. This formation blocked the surrounding space, but in this space, he was still able to walk unimpeded. If he wanted to break through this formation, although it was not easy, it was not difficult for him. The short courtyard, which was obviously much more dilapidated than just now, was empty at this time. Those disciples were busy setting up the formation, and the disciples whose cultivation was not enough to participate in the formation also withdrew from the formation. Waving away the diamond treasure chest on the ground, Roha turned his attention to the system warehouse. Although there is a higher level existence of the fairy treasure chest, the diamond treasure chest can still produce some small items. System, open the diamond treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the diamond treasure chest and obtaining the Bone Spirit Cold Fire. Bone Spirit Cold Fire. From Duba World, it is a strange flame that combines extreme cold and extreme heat. Only every 100 years, when the sun and the moon alternate, can you meet in extreme cold and extreme yin. Yao Lao's bone spirit is cold. Roha's heart moved, seeing the cold fire of the bone spirit in the system warehouse. A satisfied smile appeared on his face, but this spirit fire came at just the right time. Bone Spirit Cold Fire is the flame that ranks 11th in the different fire list, 8 places higher than Earth Heart Qinglian Fire, and it is very suitable for alchemy and weapon refining. Yao Lao is a master of refining medicine. Using this Bone Spirit Cold Fire is superb. In the early days of Shaoyan, Yao Lao even only relied on a trace of the true spirit lodged in the ring to motivate the Bone Spirit Cold Fire, and led him several times. He saved himself from danger and escaped the crisis of mortal death. It's a fact that the Qinglian Huo in the center of the earth didn't hurry, and now that a flame that is 8 places higher than him appears, then Feng Ju can rise to a big level again. You must know that every time you absorb a different kind of fire, the level of Feng Ju will be greatly improved. This is not the most critical. Last time in Naruto World, Roha exploded at the end and got a kind of the flame that ordinary cultivators can only see but cannot reach, the true fire of Samadhi. Because of his lack of physical strength and the insufficient level of Fenju, this Samadhi true fire still lies quietly in the system warehouse. This is the flame of Taishang Laojun's alchemy. If Fenju absorbs the cold fire of the bone spirit and can absorb the true fire of Samadhi again, the value of the diamond treasure chest of Roha will be doubled. Even because Xuandu's fire robe and Fenju had some kind of weird fusion, after absorbing the two kinds of flames, its ability will inevitably rise again. Fame and fortune are in danger, wealth are in danger, and the ancients will not deceive me. Luo Yawen muttered, his face full of lust. This trip, no matter how many people in the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect were killed in the end, how much merit they gained, or whether they could save the seemingly unreachable 1 million, they had already made a lot of money. Little thief, why didn't you run away? Did you find that you couldn't get out? Or is your immortal power running out? The bloodless Taoist had just discovered Roha's transfer again through spiritual sense, so he had to go with the corpse again. Come. When he found that he did not continue to escape as expected, there was a smirk on his face. Space supernatural power. Whether it is innate supernatural power or magic supernatural power, the consumption is not something that ordinary monks can bear. They didn't know it before, but under their noses, Roha had used it twice. For a person in the realm of loose immortals, I am afraid it will consume a lot of his immortal energy. Bloodless Taoist, right, haven't you heard that silence is gold? Can't you learn from the old corpse demon around you? Seeing how indifferent they are. If you make yourself like a clown, I'm afraid others won't see you. What? Look at what the old corpse-defying demon thinks of you. I'm afraid that you will be regarded as the servant who shouts. Roha finished opening the 3 treasure chests, and was in a good mood at this time. Watching the bloodless Taoist who came slowly and regarded himself as his prey, he pouted in his heart and asked 3 questions in a row. When the bloodless Taoist heard Roha's words, a cyan flashed across his face. He turned his head to look at the corpse beside him. The blood-red immortal power surged on his body, and the 108 small flags in his hand couldn't stop spinning. This small flag is different from the Blood River flag, but it is black and red in color, and there are gusts of overcast wind. At first glance, I am afraid that this power will be terrifying. Your name is wrong. My name is Pai J, but the word, old demon, is absolutely indescribable. Pai J lost his sense of proportion when he saw the bloodless Taoist being provoked by others. Talk out loud. Chapter 1082-Sao Discord. It is a well-known fact that the Tao of Heaven is taboo against the Tao of the Devil. In ancient times, the great power of the Tao of the Devil, Rahu, made life in the West utterly ruined. After Taoist Hongjun joined the Tao, the attack of the Tao of Heaven on the monks of the magic Tao suddenly increased, not to mention the cultivation of the golden immortal and the loose immortal. I am afraid that the heavenly punishment will be imposed before the cultivation of the divine mirror. Zuo Tao can still try. For the 4 major continents today, let alone cultivation, hundreds of millions of creatures will tremble when they hear it. This tone is so calm. Tisk tisk. No wonder people always say that although the corpse refining sect has few people, it has left the blood transformation sect for 108,000 miles, and even the bearing is 1 heaven and 1 underground. Roha raised his eyebrows and continued to sow discord. Although this kind of words might not make the 2 immediately turn their faces, he still didn't believe it, that bloodless Taoist would not have a grudge against Pai Shi. The bloodless Taoist is as skinny as a wood, but the corpse is like a strong man of 5 big and 3 thick, but the appearance and personality of the 2 are extremely disproportionate. Compared with the corpse, the shrewd person is much more shrewd, but the bloodless Taoist is extremely impulsive. If you want to sow discord, it's a little off. I've been with bloodless Taoists for thousands of years, so how could I not know each other? I'm just asking you who you are, and what kind of school you come from. The corpse said and took over the conversation, just because he didn't want the bloodless Taoist who was on top of the blood to fall into this superficial strategy. Roha heard the words of the corpse, and there was a glint in his eyes, but now he knows that this legend does not like to talk, and usually he will do the corpse when he comes out. Why is he in the mood to talk nonsense with him? This is obviously because he is afraid of offending someone who can't afford to offend. This guy should be the kind of extremely cautious person. If he finds out the details of the enemy, he will naturally make a killing move. Guess. After thinking about this section, Roja's expression became even more playful. There was no one behind him, and he was always the only one who was someone else's master. Where would he find a master? He also thought that one day he would be able to punch saints and kick Hongjun. Looking for that master. If you can teach it for a while, can you still teach yourself for a lifetime? But it's just plain blocking for himself. HMPH, why don't you say it? Then even if your seniors are to blame, it's no wonder that I waited. When the corpse heard Roja's words, he snorted coldly, slapped the coffin behind him, and flew out 9 corpse puppets. Some of these 9 corpse puppets have green faces and fangs, some are covered in blood, and some are covered with sores and rotten skin, and their green-brown nails are highly poisonous at first glance. The big one has a body of more than 30 meters, and even if it is small, it is as big as a punch than the ordinary human race. Heaven Gang Protector, Earth Evil attacking the enemy. The bloodless Taoist moved faster than the corpse, with 108 small flags in his hands, screeching, and 36 surrounded by a mysterious formation with guards around him. With the remaining 72 handles, the technique of combining the earth and evil, aroused the blood of the blood in the surrounding 49 blood river formations, and brought the blood river rushing underground, which actually had the momentum of blood all over the world. This is still the 2 of them who don't know that Roja is the one who killed King White Carp and Taoist Shocking Soul. If they know, I am afraid that they will come up with all the killer moves at the bottom of the box. Zuo Dao Cultivator, as an alternative existence among Dao enlighteners, kills and cuts sharply, and is not inferior to Dao practitioners. He combines Zuo Dao secret techniques with magic weapons in the attack, and does not care about human ethics and morality. The people of the realm are terrified. Roja saw the reaction of the 2, the flames of Xuandu's fire robe rose, the Earth's core green lotus fire, the Earth's core fire, the volcanic fire, and many flames in the pirate world wrapped around the body, and the hot temperature caused the ground to rise. Green smoke. The ground eroded by the great array of 9 blood rivers and the great array of 9 serenities refining corpse was originally lingering with yin and filthy air, but when it came into contact with the flames on Roja's body, it seemed as if snow greeted the rising sun, and it began to melt uncontrollably. The Jutian Yule blade, which was originally turned into 5 thunders when killing the corpse of the corpse refining sect, was re-embodied in Roja's hands. The blood river is boundless. The bloodless Taoist has already endured to the limit, and he can't wait to tear the skin and bones of Roja in front of him, light the lamp with human oil, and make the core of the soul overwhelmingly rolled towards him. Poison puppets, blood puppets, zombie puppets, go. The corpse snorted in a low voice, and 6 of the 9 corpse puppets moved together. The 2 poison puppets have corpse poison in their bodies. Even if the practitioners of the true immortal realm have a hard body, if the corpse poison enters the body, their strength will be greatly reduced. If the corpse poison cannot be eliminated within 3 days, 3 souls and 7 souls leaving the body, it will also turn into a corpse puppet, which is extremely vicious. The blood puppet has blood poison, but this blood poison is somewhat similar to the blood poison of the blood transformation sect. As soon as the 2 blood puppets attacked, they jumped into the blood river and hid in the blood. The 2 zombies are the bodies of practitioners, either demon cultivators, or human monks. The corpses that can be seen by the corpse are all overlords. Although they are made into zombies, they have no intelligence, but their physical bodies. But it is even more powerful, each of which is equivalent to the realm of immortals. The remaining 3 of the 9 corpse puppets were standing beside the corpse. Although he had not attacked, Roja saw the bat demon who had been attacked by Alkungsen's innate supernatural powers at a glance. This bat monster is more than 5 meters long. After being forged into a corpse puppet, its realm does not fall. It is still in the early stage of the loose immortal, and even the physical body has become a lot stronger. You don't need to think about it. The strongest magic puppet in the mouth. This kind of puppet has no other use, but if the magical power is ready, it can also be a big killer, and the remaining leopard monster corpse and 3 lions around him, 9 times out of 10, are also the magical power puppet. As soon as the blood-turning Taoist and the corpse-removing team made their move, this lineup could make the ordinary real immortal realm tremble with fear. When the 2 of them dared to find the White Carp King alone, it was also because they had full confidence in their own strength. Wan Lei. Roja didn't dare to be careless. The power that the 2 of them erupted was really shocking. Even if there were many trump cards, keeping the trump cards is the best guarantee. The golden immortal power of the whole body was fully motivated, and under the majestic energy, the blade of the 9 heavens Yulei blade disappeared and turned into an endless thunder. Blood River. Chapter 1083_force Lao Su to zoom in. Boom. The thunder and the blood river collided, and the scattered blood brought huge black smoke. The extinction god thunder took the 5 elements god thunder, and all the evil spirits were scattered, and a dizzying stench was emitted from it. The oncoming zombies and poisonous puppets flexibly hid behind the blood river under the command of the corpse, and rushed towards Roja at a rapid rate when the thunder just disappeared. As for the blood puppet hidden in the blood river, although Roja's spiritual sense could not perceive it, Zhou Tianxing Xingtong could see through everything and clearly capture their figure. Laugh. When the blood puppet collapsed in the underground river of blood, it was already directly below Roja, stomped on his feet, walked in the air, and attacked him directly. The body under the corpse puppet did not feel pain, and every time they stepped on it, they were all out, and the corpse gas was surging, making them speed to the extreme. The speed of the 2 blood puppets was somewhat beyond Roja's expectations. The strength of the whole body condensed secretly, and Zhou Tianxing's pupils spun for a while, but he disappeared directly in front of the 2 blood puppets. Although Zuo Dao monks are an alternative among Dao enlighteners, they still have some similarities with Dao enlighteners. That is, their ability to fight in close quarters is not strong, and most of them rely on Zuo Dao techniques and magic weapons to fight against the enemy. People who are stronger than themselves in the battle realm should use their strengths and attack the enemy's shortcomings. Roja is not a fool. This kind of corpse will not feel tired at all. That is, Roja's undead body has amazing resilience, and it is endless when it is consumed with them, and as long as the manipulator is killed, the corpse will naturally be unable to move. The bloodless Taoist had a defensive formation composed of 36 small flags. Although he had not tried its power, the 9 heavens thunderblade had just moved with all his strength and had already collided with the blood river led by the 72 small flags. Luo, however, is not sure to kill the opponent without breaking the formation. Although the corpse was guarded by 3 corpse puppets at this time, compared to the bloodless Taoist who was closely guarded and the blood was boiling, it seemed that it was much easier to attack. Call out. Out of the space where Zhou Tianxing's pupils were broken, Roja's whole body gathered strength, the muscles on his body bulged, and he used Rokushiki, 6 styles 5 times to open the mountain. Aiming at the back of the corpse, the attack that had been brewing for a long time came out with all his strength, and the powerful force brought the surrounding air into a tyrannical ripple. Under the blessing of the Golden Fairy, Roja dared to say, even the original White Carp King, if he dared to take it hard, he would also break his bones and tendons. The neck of the corpse turned unreasonably 180 degrees, and the head actually flew directly away from his body, and the smirk on his face made Roja actually shudder. It's just that at this time, it seems that the strength is not enough, and the fists are directly on the body of the corpse, and the 3 corpse puppets around him also suddenly look back. Sub-body. The bat demon on one side seems to have no brewing process, and sends out the innate supernatural power bat wave. The 3 heads of the 3 lions kept shaking, and at the same time they opened their mouths wide, and the suction like a universal pull was attached to Roja, making it difficult for his figure to move. Roja Zhou Tianxing Xingtong's pupils turned rapidly, activated the ability of fast again, and disappeared in front of the leopard demon, with a cold sweat on VV's forehead. Looking at the body of the corpse, I saw that a large mouth had been broken above its chest, and the front and back were transparent, and even the river of blood behind it could be seen. There were no flesh and blood or organs in the chest cavity of this body. Under Zhou Tianxing's eyes, countless small insects could be seen. At this time, they were spitting out a little bit of minced meat, which was quickly repaired. Roha, who was deeply disgusted, shuddered, and when he looked at the corpse again, he only felt that this leftist was really cruel to others, and even more cruel to himself. His body was like a nest of bugs. Did you actually run away? Your usual trick doesn't seem to be effective. The bloodless Taoist saw Roha pulling away again, and said to the lone head on the side. I had expected it for a long time, but this person's space supernatural ability can be used again in such a short period of time, but it is extraordinary. If there is not such a big formation, maybe he really can't help him today. The corpse's face was not moved at all, and the body pierced by Roha's fist force slowly flew under his head. After the two met, the corpse twisted his neck, but his brows were deeply wrinkled. The force here is great, and nearly half of my corpse worm was killed by a blow. With a shot of the coffin behind the corpse, countless worms flew into the hole in his body, quickly killing the damaged area. Reply. Nearly half. There was a haze in the eyes of the bloodless Taoist. If such a fist fell on him, he would not have the recovery ability to remove a corpse, and in all likelihood he would die on the spot. After the two exchanged a look, the bloodless Taoist launched the attack again. The blood river array melted human flesh and blood and invaded human souls. Moreover, with the support of the 360 divine mirror disciples, there was no need to consume much. A mortal power. As soon as the assistant fought, the two felt that they had roughly figured out Roha's moves. As long as they were prepared for a sudden attack using his spatial supernatural power, they could be killed here today. With the operation of the 4-9 blood river array, more and more filthy blood water completely covered the air gate station, leaving no place for a foothold. Under the great formation of 9 secluded corpse refining, black corpse chi continued to emerge from the blood river. The originally dead disciples of the sect, the body trembled violently, and one by one slowly crawled out of the blood river. It gradually turned into a bluish-black skin with a blood-colored halo. The 72 small flags of the bloodless Taoist kept spinning along a mysterious trajectory in the air, and a blood tornado flew into the sky, and a ferocious beast composed of countless blood and water took shape. And the disciple who turned into a corpse puppet under the 9 secluded corpse refining formation actually began to suck the blood river on the ground. Resident Evil. Roha looked at the scene in front of him, and there was a trace of solemnity in his eyes. The giant corpse puppets and blood river beasts with muscles, just looking at them can give people a lot of pressure. Roar tilde. Contaminated by the filthy and bloody aura, these giant beast corpse puppets rushed towards Roha one by one without the need for the control of the bloodless Taoist. The river of blood flowing on the ground seems to be the main battlefield of these giant beasts, and the speed is completely unreasonable. Forcing Lao Su to make more moves. Roha muttered to himself, the stars in his eyes flowed, and he suddenly looked up at Tianyu. His eyes directly passed through the blockade of the 2 major formations, and stared at a huge star. Chapter 1084-Bloody God Knife. After coming to the world of Journey to the West, Roha has repeatedly tested the ability that he could use as an arm in Naruto world. Most of these abilities are now unusable, but one thing is that Zhou Tianxing's ability has been completely preserved. The stars of Journey to the West are different from the stars of Hokage world. The stars of Hokage world have no rules at all. Although they have the same sun and moon, they are completely unsystematic. There are sun stars and lunar stars in the world of Journey to the West. There are 365 main stars, each of which is a match with the sun of Hokage world, and contains the power of endless stars. There are 14,800 sub-stars below, and even the smallest one is dozens of times larger than the moon in the Hokage world. After these stars, there are miscellaneous stars such as meteorites. These miscellaneous stars are large and small. The big ones are almost comparable to the secondary stars, and the small ones are also kilometers in diameter. The main star and the sub-star Roha have tried it before, and they seem to be linked to each other. Zhou Tianxingxing's pupils can only affect a little, but they can't pull it down at all. The only thing that can be pulled down is that miscellaneous star. The sky is high and the earth is far away. At such a distance, the power of even the smallest meteor falling on the surface is unimaginable, and it can even cause a catastrophe. What is he doing? There was a trace of solemnity in Pai's eyes. Even if they were far apart, he could still see the brilliance of the stars in the eyes of the other party. The bloodless Taoist followed Roha's gaze to the sky, only to see that among the stars in Zhou Tian, there seemed to be a miscellaneous star that was gradually brightening. The light was extremely bright, even in the 4-9 Blood River array. See clearly. Not good. Stop him. The bloodless Taoist shouted urgently. Although he didn't know what kind of magical power this was, it could actually affect the operation of the stars, but the enemy used it at this time. It must not be a simple method. Pai Jie heard the words of the bloodless Taoist, and hurriedly glanced at the changes in the sky. His face was ruthless, and the 3 lion corpse puppets came to his side and instantly merged with him. This is a high-level technique of the corpse refining sect. Through the combination with the corpse puppet, not only can it have the incomparable fleshly body of the corpse puppet, but it can also use the means of its life. The momentum of the 3 lions soared, and the original aura of the middle stage of the true immortal was in line with the cultivation level of the middle stage of the true immortal of the corpse-defying corpse, and actually stepped into the realm of the late stage of the true immortal. Talent Divine Ability Siphon. With a beast roar, the violent suction fell on Roha's body, making his body unstable for a while, and he couldn't help but go in the direction of the 3 lions. The 3 lions are from the bloodline of ancient alien beasts, and they can turn into 9 lion heads if they are trained to the extreme. Paralyzed, cheating, Roha scolded inwardly, his hands condensed. Using Shigen's finger pistol technique, he punched in front of him, his feet shaved and stepped on, relying on the strength of the anti-shock. Stabilize your body. Under the eyes of Zhou Tianxingxing, the stars in the sky are approaching at an extreme speed, and they are more than 2,000 meters in size. It is quite laborious to pull, but Hao Lai left the original trajectory and broke through the shackles of the sea of stars. Increase. Little thief. Die. When Roha was just about to breathe a sigh of relief, the bloodless Taoist actually turned against the scene of the far-reaching attack, and approached his side at high speed, took out a blood-red long knife in his hand, and stepped on a Blood River behemoth, the tip of the knife pointed directly at its chest. The suction force from the 3 lions did not decrease, but became larger and larger. The bat demon had already circled behind him, and the agitating neck showed that its supernatural powers were clearly condensed. Damn your sister! Roha scolded in a low voice. The 9 heavens thunder blade turned into the 5 elements divine thunder, and walked in the direction of the 3 lions, completely ignoring the attack of the bat demon behind him, stepping on his feet in the air, borrowing wearing Xuandu's fire robe's resistance to the gravitational force. He barely broke free, and rushed to the bloodless Taoist. When the tip of the knife was less than 2 meters away from Roha, the bloodless Taoist had a sinister smile on his face. The distance of 2 meters was not a distance at all for a monk like them. Although this blood-changing sword is not the one in the hands of its ancestor Yuhua, it is just an imitation, but this imitation is a collection of treasures collected by the blood-changing sect for thousands of years. Point. Under the Tai Sanxian, as long as it is hit by a knife mark, it will be rubbed and injured by this counterfeit blood-turning sword. If there is no antidote, it will turn into a pool of pus and blood in a few moments. Although Roha doesn't know the power of this knife, he can let a Taoist cultivator from the left to attack at close range. I am afraid that the power of this treasure will exceed his imagination, so how can he use a pair of flesh fists to shake it hard? In the system warehouse, the 8-pan heavenly axe was just opened from the fairy treasure chest and caught in his hand. Roha used all his strength to slash the blood-turning sword from top to bottom. Under Roha's swing, the 9,700-pound, 8-pan heavenly axe surpassed tens of thousands of pounds, and he really didn't believe it. A long sword that a Taoist can easily swing, a weapon that can be used with a Taoist. Head to head. When there was a sound of fine iron symphony, and the blood-red long knife made a clear sound, and it was knocked out in an instant. The bloodless Taoist's arm also made a sound of fracture, and he tried his best to dodge, Fang dodged the 8 axes axe. Blade. Roha's eyes lit up. The system warehouse put away the 8 plates of the heaven-turning axe, stepped on it, his left hand directly grabbed the bloodless Taoist's left arm, and his right hand slammed down his heavenly spirit. A Taoist would actually give up the advantage of a magic weapon for melee attack, and Roha was worried that this guy was hiding in the 36 small flags and could not find a chance to kill him. Etc. Enlightened One. Magic weapon. It's too late. There was a crazy smile in the eyes of the bloodless Taoist, and he threw himself on Roha. Behind him, the imitation blood-turning sword instantly penetrated the bodies of the 2 of them. This bloodless Taoist actually used his own body as a cover, and was turned into a divine sword to pierce through, and he had to let the blade hurt him. Puff tilde. The sharp blade broke armament hockey's defense, and Roha pushed with both hands and kicked the bloodless Taoist's body, opening the distance between the 2. The bloodless Taoist man with a blood-colored long knife in his chest quickly fell towards the river of blood under his feet. The 36 small flags that had just been hidden among the blood beasts under his feet staggered and rotated, and he took off the strength of his body and kept it steady. Next. Hey haha tilde I got hit with the blood-turning sword of my blood-turning sect. No matter how many methods you have to turn it into that hand of blood. The blood-turning mouth began to laugh wildly, and the voice was full of pride. It's just a pity for a good material. The body of the corpse withdrew from the 3 lions, and said quite regretfully. Chapter 1085 _ Have you been hit by stars? The blood-turning sword of the blood-turning sect, the corpse-defying sword can't be understood anymore. The Tai Sanxian will die if you touch it. The ancestor of that sect was killed by the bloodless Taoist at the beginning. Taking the 36 bloodstream flags as a guide, he created the illusion of weak close-up ability to the enemy, and then got close with the help of the corpse, and gave up the small flag's defense, so that the opponent thought there was an opportunity to take advantage. With a step-by-step layout, this Taoist who is impulsive and irritable on the outside, but is actually extremely insidious on the inside, has already done all this well. The bloodless Taoist took off the blood-turning sword from his chest as if nothing had happened. His real name was Li Ruahai, and the bloodless Taoist was his title. Naturally, he got this title because there was no trace of blood in his body. All the blood was pulled away when he sacrificed the 108 small flags in his hands and blended with the small flags. The blood-turning sword will melt upon seeing blood, and the terrifying erosive power will be infiltrated by 3 souls and 7 souls. In the battle of conferring gods, this long sword has made countless sages and immortals hate it on the spot. But when there is not even a drop of blood in the body, this divine sword is useless at all, and it is very dangerous to extract the essence and blood from the body. The sea of blood was tumbling, the blood-colored corpse puppets and giant beasts surrounded Roha, and the blood-turning Taoist and the corpse-removing corpse stood in the distance, full of pleasure and wanted to see him howling and screaming. This is not Yuha's handle. Roha frowned tightly, grasping the wound on his chest that was penetrated by the blood-turning sword, staring at the bloodless Taoist with an ugly face. At that moment, he was eager to win, and it was clear that the scale of victory had already turned to him, but he was actually overshadowed by the bloodless Taoist. Now the immortal body and the 6 kinds of divine thunder in the body are competing fiercely with the power of the blood-turning sword. The wound that has been penetrated shows no sign of healing, and even pus and blood have already begun to flow out. Naturally it's not the old ancestor's handle, it's made from the heaven and earth treasures collected by my blood sect for thousands of years. Although it can't compare to the ancestors' acquired spiritual treasure, it is the top among the spiritual treasures. Do you feel the whole body? The muscles and bones are beginning to melt. It's also cheap for you. This blood-turning sword won't even keep the primordial spirit, without the opportunity to train you. Quote. The bloodless Taoist grinned, with a happy expression on his face. The elder of his family was killed by the enemy in front of him. He was also insulted many times, and now he was finally able to kill the opponent. Roha flipped his hand and took out a fairy bean and threw it into the mouth. When the fairy bean entered his stomach, it was like hot water was poured on the stove. Still has not healed. Paralyzed, it's a little troublesome. Roha scolded inwardly, put down the hand covering the wound, and let the pus and blood flow down, looking up at Tianyu. Although the time between the three of them was short, the more than 10 breaths were enough for the meteorite to fall a long distance. The situation is not very right. Seeing Roha's expression, Pai Jie said softly to the bloodless Taoist beside him. After the sect master of the first door was hit with the blood-turning sword, he began to wail and scream in less than 2 breaths. And now the man in front of him has been pierced through his chest until now. I am afraid that it has passed 7 or 8 breaths, and there is still no movement. When the wound had just taken some unknown medicinal pill, the smoke that came out of the wound was unreasonable, and everything was completely different from usual. Did you use some kind of secret technique to suppress the spread of blood poison? The bloodless Taoist looked a little ugly, but he had full confidence in the blood-turning sword. The antidote for blood poison in the Battle of Function was originally framed by Yang Jian. After that, after his ancestor Yuhua took the position of Lone Star, he ignored the affairs of heaven and concentrated on studying the blood poison. The current blood poison, except for the package of antidote given by the ancestors of Yuhua, there is nothing to solve. If it is only temporarily suppressed, the medicinal power will pass sooner or later, and no matter how strong the man in front of him is, it can only be turned into blood. Have you been smashed by stars? Roha's eyes closed, but Zhou Tianxingxingtong's pupil power tightly locked the stars falling above the 9 days, making it continue to accelerate, with a maximum of 10 breaths. The stars of this distant sky will land here. Pai Jie was startled, remembering the light of the stars that lit up in the sky just now. He looked up at the sky in amazement. The bloodless Taoist on the side also raised his head. His legs and feet were subconsciously weak. Disperse the great formation. Quickly evacuate. Evacuate. The corpse shouted loudly. The power of the stars has always been an unattainable power in the westward journey world, and everyone who can mobilize the power of the stars is not a simple person. What is this? What kind of magical power is this? Is he really just a loose immortal? The bloodless Taoist looked dazed. The terrifying tail flame of stars with a diameter of 2,000 meters was wiped out in the sky. Not to mention him, I am afraid it is Tai the level of immortals only have the ability to dodge. Roha saw the speed of the stars in the sky, so fast that no one could stop it. With a ruthless look on his face, holding the 9-day thunder blade that had just returned after resisting the 3 lions, activating the ability of fast come directly to the side of the bloodless Taoist. This kind of thing, if he can't kill with his hands, he can't disperse the soul of him with the divine thunder, how can he be worthy of the warm reception just now? You must know that the wound of the blood-turning sword is still eroding his body. Although the 6 kinds of gods are struggling to resist, the undead body is trying to repair, and neither side can save it, but that is destroying all the time. The severe pain of repair, if it is ordinary people, I am afraid that I will go crazy at this moment. Leopard puppet. The corpse was stunned when he saw the bloodless Taoist, and Roha had already appeared behind him, with a low voice in his mouth, and the nearest and fastest leopard demon zombie puppet suddenly rushed. Although the 36 small flags were not under the command of the bloodless Taoist at this time, they felt threatened and moved spontaneously. I am in the way. The thunder light flashed wildly in Roha's hand, and the energy of Xuandu's fire robe poured into the Judian Yulei blade in his hand. Crackle, kaka. Under the dark but violent thunderlight, the defense formed by the 36 small flags shattered, and the great 5 elements divine thunder pierced directly at the bloodless Taoist heavenly spirit. Zuo Dao monk can be bloodless, but Roha doesn't believe that this guy can make Yuenshin close to those 108 small flags. The bloodless Taoist just reacted at this time, and he was smashed to death by the stars falling from the sky, but as long as he can give him 2 breaths of effort, let him fully motivate the 108 blood streamers, maybe there are still people alive. Opportunity. Chapter 1086_Y exactly. Give me death. The 9-day thunderblade in Roha's hand stabbed fiercely. The bloodless Taoist's pupil shrank, but out of the corner of his eye he saw the leopard demon corpse close at hand. He waved all the small flags and rushed towards Roja frantically, while he himself retreated and walked towards the leopard demon, and the blood-turning sword in his hand slashed at its shoulders. The blood-turning banner slowed the opponent's speed, and the blood-turning sword threatened his shoulder again. If he wanted his life, the opponent would never be better off. You must know that the part chopped off by the blood-turning sword cannot be healed at all. And even if the opponent has temporarily suppressed drugs, but one more injury, the effect of the drug will be weaker, and turning into pus and blood is the opponent's final outcome. The rushing leopard demon Zongpup bit the blood-turning Taoist body in one bite, twisting his waist, obviously wanting to throw it aside, while the leopard demon Zongpup's leopard tail was drawn towards Roja. Mad, he could completely kill his opponent at first sight. How could Roja give up so easily? His speed did not decrease but instead increased, fighting with one arm not two, carrying the blood-turning sword, and destroying the 5 elements. Shenlei's 9 heavens thunder blade stabbed into the bloodless Taoist's heavenly spirit. Crackle, laugh. It's slow to say, but in fact, it has only been a few seconds since the two fought each other. The head of the blood-turning Taoist was under the great 5 elements extermination divine thunder, and there was no resistance at all, and it was directly turned into coke. Without the body protector, Xiaofan's body is not much stronger than that of ordinary Taoist enlightenment. The blood-turning sword is sharp and flawless. Although Roja tried his best to twist his body, he still took away his right hand. At this distance, if he uses fast, his attack will no longer be effective. Roja endured the pain of the broken arm, and raised the handle of the blood-turning sword with his left hand, blocking the tail of the leopard demon. Cutting tofu is generally wrong. ZZ. Thunder flashed above the wound on the right arm, the divine thunder of extinction in the cells turned wildly, and the injuries on the chest and shoulder were even more serious, and there was a tendency to spread. Roja, who has always regarded immortality as his trump card, has a gloomy face, and his immortality has reached the full level, but he is still unable to handle the various means of the immortal world, which is not good news. Putting the imitation blood-turning sword in his left hand into the system warehouse, picking up the 9 heavens thunder blade, Roja gritted his teeth and cut off the wound on his right shoulder fiercely. Puff tilde. The blood sprayed, and a large piece of flesh flew out. After falling on the ground, it lost the support of the body and slowly turned into blood water under the erosion of blood poison. Roja, who had doubled the size of the wound on his chest, had no time to pay attention to it for the time being, and turned his gaze to the corpse that was escaping very fast. This guy turned into a black light and got into the coffin just after sending the leopard demon zombie. And this coffin is flying towards the southeast at this time, and its speed is not much slower than 9 heavens and 10 earths avoiding demon shuttle. The surrounding Sujuzue Great Array and Juyu Corpse Refining Great Array had collapsed under the shout of corpse removal just now, and countless disciples of the two sects followed suit and fled to the distance. It's just that at their slow speed, they can't avoid the meteorite falling at an extremely fast speed. Even if they struggle, they will only be smashed straight. The 5 loose immortal elders ran a little faster, but the order just now was too late. Even the coffins that were opened by the corpse could not escape, let alone them. Roja saw the huge meteor above his head that had already blocked the sun. The scorching temperature seemed to have exceeded 10,000 degrees. Although the volume was lost during the landing, the power did not decrease but increased. Comparable to fire. When such a falling star falls, not to mention that these people have been lifted out of the Great Formation and flee, even if they have not been lifted, they will definitely not leave a living hole. I want to run, does I allow it? Roja murmured in a low voice. The wind pressure of the meteorite above his head had already made him feel a lot of pressure, and his back was almost bent, and he instantly urged Shining to leave the place. Hum. The huge sound has made everyone's ears go missing. Everyone who was flying in the sky was crushed and fell at an extreme speed. In the next second, the meteor that followed immediately made them all lose consciousness. Roja stood 5,000 miles away, looking at the huge mushroom cloud that was rising. Vivi twitched his cheeks. In Journey to the West, the time required to perform this move was several times that of Naruto World, but the power was directly greater. Dozens of times. Whoa! The strong wind swept the Tathagata only after Roha's concentration for a few seconds, and the birds were blown away in the air unable to resist. 5,000 miles away, there is still such a large air wave. I am afraid that within 2,000 miles, there will be no life left at all. Roha Zhou Tianxing's pupils turned, and his spiritual sense covered thousands of miles. After the aftermath passed, he flashed for a moment, constantly searching for the location of the black coffin that opened the corpse. I found it. After the third flash, Roha's spiritual thoughts moved, and in a ley-line depression, he saw a black coffin with only a small corner left. And the corpse, who also had only half of his body left, was lingering beside the black coffin. The space inside the black coffin was broken. There were originally hundreds of corpse puppets, but now there are only a few crippled corpse puppets standing beside him. Roha moved and stood in front of the corpse, and the few broken corpses could not bring him the slightest threat at all. The corpse was leaning on a small section of the black coffin with his head tilted. The black coffin, which was the magic weapon of his life, was broken. At this time, he was already severely injured, let alone resistance. It was difficult to even move his hands and feet. I asked myself for my sins, Your Excellency, and you want to kill me at the cost of killing countless living beings. Why? The corpse looked at Roha and asked with a little difficulty. This meteor fell to the ground, thousands of miles of life were wiped out. If it was a monk of the left way, the heavenly way would be punished immediately. Even if it was the realm of golden immortals, I am afraid it would not be able to resist. And even if there is no heavenly punishment, the endless karma is entangled, and it is difficult for the enlightened person to cultivate from now on, and the heaven does not like many disasters. In order to kill him, he is willing to pay such a huge price. What kind of hatred is this? You know, even if the meteorite is only 1/10 the size, he will also choose to retreat. I killed the king of the white carp, and I also killed the stunned Taoist of the blood transformation sect. I don't like trouble, and you are making trouble for me. Roha made a rare opening to explain the reason. The great 5 elements extermination divine thunder in his hand turned into a thunder column, and instantly turned the corpse into flying ashes. Chapter 1087 _ How does this thing look like a bloodthirsty bead? As Roha said, he is afraid of trouble, and in the situation just now, although there are other ways to solve the two, this method is undoubtedly the most time-saving and labor-saving. You must know that there are thousands of disciples in the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect. If you kill one by one, even 1,000 pigs will have to be killed for a while. Besides, these people will probably run away in a hurry at that time, and it would be a bit difficult to want one not to stay. Even the weakest enlightened person, it only takes a long time to fly 1,000 miles. When some of them escaped the perception range of divine sense, it would not be easy to dig it out. Although the gods in the heavens could not easily descend to the world, but the Taoist line was destroyed, it was no trivial matter to say anything. When Yu Hua and Lu Yu come down, as long as you find a live outlet and ask casually, you can ask the cause and effect. Yu Hua is the realm of Tai Junqian, and Lu Yu is also different. Now Roha is really not with the 2 PK's strength. After killing the corpse, Roha was about to turn around and leave, but he saw a little light gleaming under a small coffin on the side, and it dimmed in an instant. One kick kicked the disgusting coffin away. Roha swept away his spiritual thoughts, and saw a small ring several inches deep underground. With a sneer on his face, he waved the soil layer open, and with one hand hook, the ring flew into his hand. This ring is connected to the mind of the corpse, and when it dies, the imprint of the primordial spirit on it is automatically released, and then it emits a little bit of precious light. If it weren't for Roha's Zhou Tianxingkong pupil, which could be observed even if it was not used, I'm afraid that the ring would have slipped away from my eyes. Raising his brows, Roha recorded his primordial spirit brand on this Sumeru ring, but he wanted to see what kind of treasure it was. The corpse was dead, and he was unwilling to take it out. Fuck, This Nima is the foundation of the great faction. Roja looked at the massive treasures in the system warehouse, and couldn't help but scolded in a low voice. The current Roja has passed the baptism of the White Carp King Naxami Bag last time, and he thinks he has seen a lot of heaven and earth treasures, but he still does not know more than half of the materials in the ring. But that part of the acquaintance is enough for the jaw-dropping pile of fine iron essence like a hill, and it is estimated that there are more than 10,000 caddies. The 1,000-year-old gloomy stones are piled up in the corners, and one of them is obviously the essence of gloomy stones. It is a good thing that cannot be obtained in 10,000 years. The ghost stone, the moon essence stone, the earth fire essence spar, the 9 secluded iron, the millennium luo iron, the people who see it are dazzled. After the ore, there are countless medicinal materials, Ganoderma lucidum, and human parameters. After that, there are hundreds of bottles and jars. These bottles and jars are all written on small pieces of paper with the names of the items in them. All kinds of medicinal herbs, those that heal wounds, those that treat fire poison, those that treat corpse poison, those that restore true essence, and those dozens of poisons, are almost all-encompassing. Next to these bottles, there are a lot of various monsters, human corpses, and even Roja saw a corpse of a witch bloodline. There are no scars in the hole. Things like corpses, you don't need to think about it to know that it is the material for refining the corpse. Roja waved and threw them all out. These rotten monster corpses are too lazy to give him. After throwing away a lot of corpses, the 2 jade boxes placed below directly attracted Roja's attention. You must know that there are many treasures in this ring, and there is really no way for the corpse to be put into the jade box. Things. He turned his hand and took out 2 jade boxes, one of which was only the size of a palm, and the other was a full foot square. In the palm-sized jade box was a pigeon egg-sized scarlet jade bead, and on it was affixed with a talisman. The seal of the amulet was extremely powerful, but it was still difficult to block the disturbing aura of the scarlet bead. The halo of the scarlet jade bead circulated, and there seemed to be a flame burning in it. It was this flame that gave people an extremely uneasy atmosphere, as if stained with this jade bead, something bad would happen. Roja began to frown when he saw the jade beads. This is such a special thing. No matter how you look at it, it looks like the bloodthirsty beads he once drew. Moreover, it can be judged from the appearance that this thing is more evil than bloodthirsty beads. When the bloodthirsty beads were held in his hands, although Roja felt uncomfortable, and even the blood on his body began to stagnate, as if to rush towards the bloodthirsty beads, but there were not so many seals at that time. With the seal added, it can still have such power. Roja is disgusted and uneasy when he hears it through the jade box. If this thing is calculated according to the level of the treasure chest, it is at least something that can be opened from the fairy treasure chest. Evil sect, evil sect. He muttered and put the blood bead into the system warehouse again, but Roja planned to go back and ask Ao Kunshin what it was. Although the dragon's treasure refining technique is extraordinary, Roja also saw the names of many treasures in the jade slip, but the jade slip of Journey to the West is really not humane enough, and I don't know the pictures and texts. That jade slip really wanted to try to keep things simple. The treasures of heaven and earth and some treasures only have names, and there are no pictures of the real objects, so that the names of the things he now does not match the real objects. Entering the jade beads into the system warehouse, the disturbed breath began to disappear, and Roja sighed with relief, with a slightly palpitated expression on his face. Just under the mood swings, the wound on the chest that was pierced by the imitation blood-turning sword actually expanded again. This kind of wound cannot be treated the same as the right arm. The right arm can be chopped off. Under the ability of the full-level immortal body, it can always recover slowly, but the chest cannot be treated so roughly, and can only slowly remove those poisoned by blood. Corrosive necrotic flesh called. Originally in Naruto world, this undead body had an amazing recovery speed. A broken arm could grow back in less than half a minute, and he has always been his strongest support. But after coming to the world of Journey to the West, since he was promoted to the peak of Sanxian, the 5 elements divine thunder entered the body, and the body became stronger and stronger. Although the body of immortality was still effective, the recovery speed was too slow. This right arm, it has been a long time since it was cut off, and it has just grown out at this time. Roja has a hunch that if his body continues to be strong, the effect of this undead body will only become more and more weak. After all, the body is strong, and the energy required to rebuild the body is completely different from the energy required before. Shaking his head and throwing away his thoughts, Roja turned his head to look at another jade box, but saw a little man riding a pony in the jade box, bound by the spells and dark chains. Chapter 1088-Karma. This little man was all red and white, his eyes were tightly closed, and there was no sound of breathing at all, while the pony sitting down was as red as blood, his eyes were also closed, and he did not move. Roja's spiritual thoughts swept away, and only felt a faint breath of life. This breath of life was like a monster with grass and trees, full of spiritual energy. Worry, you Baba, this can't be the Chirin Chima. Roja swallowed, his eyes lit up, the more he looked, the more certain it was the legendary Chirin Chima. Plants and trees become spirits, which are different from humans and ordinary monsters. These spirits are difficult to transform into, and it is extremely difficult to have independent consciousness and thinking. Millennium Zima, Wanian Jurin, Lingzi absorbs the essence of the sun and the moon. In the millennium, there is a chance to become a spirit. If the spiritual wisdom is opened, it will be born as a Zima. Zima escaped and lived only in the secret realm of the barren hills, where there are few people. At this time, Zima can already be used as a reference material for many elixir. Even this Zima has a magical effect, but it can help people break through the barrier of the level. If you eat Zima in the spirit transformation realm, you will usher in the test of the day in a moment. The 1000-year-old Zima is already quite difficult. When this elf escapes the prying eyes of the human race and the demon race, and absorbs the essence of the sun and the moon for 10,000 years, there is a very small chance that a Jurin can be born. Jurin Zima, the two are in harmony. Even if Tai Junxian sees it, he will still be greedy. Taking a bite of this thing can help break through the barrier of the level, and a little juice can heal all kinds of serious injuries. If you swallow all of them, you can even make great progress and gain thousands of years of life out of thin air. What kind of bullshit luck is this corpse removal, to actually be able to get this thing, and if you get it, you don't want to eat it. Roja smacked his lips, looking at the Jurin Zima, who was less than half a foot in length, and said the saliva is about to flow down. If it wasn't for him now with full confidence, it would not take long for him to break through the barrier of the scattered immortals and become the real immortal realm. I am afraid that he would swallow it impatiently. He didn't know that it was a very accidental opportunity for the corpse-removing Taoist to get the Jurin Zima. Just after he bound it, the bloodless Taoist came to his side. It can be incorporated into the Sumeru ring. After that, the two have been together all the time. Even if the corpse is anxious, there is no space to eat the Kai Ren Kai Ma, otherwise, where will Roja be obtained? Shaking his head and putting the Jurin Zima back into the Sumeru ring, Roja felt a little horrified, frowned, looked up at Tianyu, and saw the bright yellow merit and the stronger blood-colored breath intertwined together, straight down towards him. I'm rubbing it, this karma is too much. Roja scolded secretly in his heart, and didn't have time to react more. Then the merit and karma fell on him together. The same feeling as holding the scarlet jade bead just now came to my heart, and Roja felt uncomfortable for a while. This feeling was like a suppressed volcano, always wanting to slaughter the surrounding creatures. After a long time, as the red halo of karma completely sank into the body, the restless feeling in my heart calmed down. I just looked down at the wound on my chest, and Roja's face was extremely ugly. That karma will actually affect the recovery of the undead body. Although the power of merit and virtue that landed on the body together with it seems to be resisting the erosion of blood poison under the increase of karma, but because the gap is far, the effect is very small. When my mind moved, I checked the system and saw that the merits had increased by more than 700,000. In addition to the 40,000 people who had been horrified before, it has already reached over 750,000. The bloodless Taoist and the corpse have been around for thousands of years. It's just that the karma just now is more than twice as much as the merit. That is to say, if the karma is directly digitized like merit, he will get at least 1.4 million karma. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1,483,000 karma points, and the karma treasure chest exchange is opened. Karma treasure chest. There is a chance to open karma magic tools, slaughter tools, and karma-related treasures and spiritual materials. It takes 1 million karma to exchange. What a fool. I just put a meteorite, as for how ruthless it is. 1.48 million. Damned, how many creatures are there in this circle? But the system actually has a karma treasure chest. Is this asking yourself to learn from the demon ancestor Rahu and kill him to become a demon? Know that karma is much easier to obtain than merit. According to the explanation of the little girl Alkunshin, murder and evil, disturbing the order of heaven and earth, and even disturbing the time of heaven, will lead to karma. But this thing, will it directly trap oneself in a ditch? You must know that things like heaven's punishment happen from time to time. Too much karma, the way of heaven will be invisible. Boom. In the midst of Roha's broken thoughts, the sky and the earth changed suddenly, and thunder clouds began to appear in the sky. The rotating clouds looked like the ultimate move of the nine heavens thunderblade, punishment thunder disaster. Paralyzed. It's been less than a year since you last hacked me. He scolded angrily, feeling the thunder in the sky intensifying, and the dangerous palpitations getting worse. Roha was rummaging through the boxes in the system warehouse. Find something to hide from. At such a time, let alone a treasure chest of karma, it was a fairy treasure chest placed in front of him, and it was estimated that he would not even care about it. Spiritual Time House Experience card is too precious. This thing is a life-saving whole card, and you don't need it if you don't need it. Empty sword box is useless. 8 plates turning heavenly axe is useless. What the hell? What the hell? Roha cursed continuously in his heart, and the thunder in the sky was superimposed on the surface of the great 5 elements extinguishing divine thunder, and on it, a purple thunderbolt that he had never seen before had evolved. Now the wound on his chest is still slowly expanding. If he competes with the thunder in the sky in this state, I am afraid that the 2 ends of the undead body will not be able to take care of it. He is either turned into pus and blood by the blood poison, or is split by the purple thunder. Fly into ashes. When Roha frantically rummaged, and when he saw the Deu Bagua stove that he had just picked up in the system warehouse, his eyes lit up suddenly, his face was overjoyed, and he hurriedly placed it on the ground in front of him. Deu Bagua furnace was born to cure the ancient water disaster, and he was born with a trace of human luck. If this thing is not very useful, he can only use the Spiritual Time Room Experience card to flash people. A palm slapped on the top cover of the gossip furnace, and Roha's figure flashed in and got in. The space magic circle that came with it made his body shape instantly shrink to the extreme, and the furnace cover was closed again with a bang. Chapter 1089 just look like rabbit meat. Boom, boom. The thunder in the sky made a muffled sound, and Tiandao seemed to determine whether the fate of the human race on this Deu Bagua furnace could offset the majestic karma on his body. ZZ tilde. The way of heaven revolved, the thunder gradually disappeared, the purple terrifying thunder and lightning disappeared, and Roha, who was hiding in the Deu Bagua furnace, breathed a sigh of relief. I'm going. Roha's body softened, leaning on the stove body, wanting to curse the day, but worried about causing unnecessary trouble again. The wound on the chest is still slowly expanding. It was originally just a finger-thick penetrating knife scar, but now it is almost the size of an adult fist. Knowing that it couldn't be dragged on any longer, Roha took out the Zanpakuto from the system warehouse, gestured horizontally and vertically, but found that he was really not good at starting. After all this tossing, the injury on the chest actually had a tendency to expand. Rolling his eyes, Roha lay on his back at the bottom of the furnace. I hope you don't scare that girl into a daze. He muttered to himself. Zhou Tianxingxing's pupils in his eyes turned sharply. Roha activated the ability of fast, and after a few flashes, with big Ubagua furnace returned to the mountain of slaughtering monsters. Kunshin, come out and help. Roha shouted loudly, but the voice outside the furnace became extremely small. Before his body fully recovered, he really didn't have the courage to come out of this Ubagua furnace. God knows that if Tiandao feels that he has never sacrificed this furnace, he will not be able to borrow that trace of human luck, and will the scene just now be repeated. Ao Kunshin was washing the quilt cushions in the room, when he vaguely heard Roha calling her. He turned around suddenly, only to see a one-person high gossip stove. Don't look, come in quickly. Shen Yan saw Ao Kunshin cast his eyes. Roha hurriedly shouted, waving a palm and patted the top of the furnace, but the top of the furnace didn't move. This Ubagua furnace can only be opened from the outside, but the inside is a self-contained formation. If the cultivation base is not high to a certain level, it cannot be opened at all. Oh, Brother Luo, I'm here. Ao Kunshin waited to hear the second cry, already determined Roha's identity, without any hesitation, wrapped the furnace cover with a jade belt around his waist, lifted it and jumped in. Fuck, this is so embarrassing. Roha was about to speak out to dissuade Ao Kunshin, but saw that it had fallen from the air above the stovetop, and the stovetop closed spontaneously in an instant. Brother Luo, what's wrong with you? The first time Ao Kunshin came in, he saw the wound on Roha's chest. Fall down. Roha helplessly covered his forehead. How to get out can only be discussed later. The most important thing now is to deal with the wound on his chest. Fortunately, the wound was on the right chest, and it only penetrated the right lung. Now it is difficult to breathe. If it is allowed to develop, I am afraid that the liver will be affected. Help me gouge out the rotten flesh on my chest, otherwise the wound will not heal. Roha handed the zanpakudo to Ao Kunshin, although he knew that this request was a bit difficult, but now there is really no other suitable candidate besides her. Although it has been a long time since he came to the world of Journey to the West, Roha can now trust Ao Kunshin alone. As for Chai Miaoling, he can only say that he has met a few times, and he has not even said a few words. Ao Kunshin was not a timid girl. Seeing her sweetheart hurt like this, her hands and feet trembled, but at this time, she seemed to have no other choice but to stand up. Blah. Taking the zanpakudo tremblingly, Ao Kunshin knelt down beside Roha, forced himself to stabilize his mind, took a deep breath, and aimed the tip of the blade at the rotten flesh. Take it easy. When you handled that rabbit last time, it was very easy to remove the skin and bones, so just treat it like rabbit meat. Roha looked at the trembling Ao Kunshin, and was really afraid that this girl would gouge out most of her body with a knife, so it would be better to do it yourself. Brother Luo, that's different, you're not a rabbit. Ao Kun bit his lower lip and said while sniffling, how is his sweetheart and a rabbit on the same level? Completely one sky and one underground. Just treat it as a piece of rabbit meat, and talk about rabbits a few more times. Roha helplessly lay on the ground with his forehead, describing himself as a rabbit. He was also drunk, but in order to make this little girl hurry up, there is no other way. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. Ao Kunshin closed his eyes and muttered to himself. After chanting dozens of times, he opened his eyes and stared straight at the carrion on Roha's chest. Looking a little at the food. Chi tilde. In Ao Kunshin's hand, the zanpakudo was like a boning knife. The rotten flesh and bones were precisely removed by it. The cavity was a little bigger than his fist, and he could already see the wriggling internal organs. Tilde. Roha took a breath, and the wound began to heal rapidly under the undead body. After taking a fairy bean again, the healing speed became faster and faster. Brother Luo, wow, I'm scared to death. Ao Kunshin's tears burst back again. This little dragon girl is like water. When she cried, the tears also had special effects to magnify. Top 10 drops, and in a short while, a small piece of water was smashed on the ground in this furnace. Don't cry, be good. Roha held Ao Kunshin in his arms. The performance of this girl just now was really remarkable, and he didn't drop the chain at the critical moment. After comforting for a while, Alcun calmed down and touched the wound on Roja's chest that had healed as before, choking and wrinkling his little nose. Tell you not to go, you go, what if I become a widow? I'm still so young, do you want me to marry that Alkai? Don't worry, it's just a little injury, don't you think it's okay? Also, I'll go back and kill that Alkai. Roja whispered on Alcunshin's forehead, and turned his head speechlessly. White eyes. This girl actually dares to talk about Alkai. Do you really think that she can't remember the conditions for opening the treasure chest? It's impossible to justify turning back and not slaughtering this guy. Brother Luo, don't, he's the crown prince of South Blue Dragon Palace. Alcunshin waved his hand hurriedly when he heard Roya's words. However, the influence of the Dragon Palace's connection is extremely broad, whether it is Heavenly Court, Buddhism, Taoism or the big monsters of the Yaozu, all of them are related. The Dragon King is the righteous deity of the Heavenly Court, Buddhism has Dharma protecting Heavenly Dragon, Taoism has Wanglong Zhenren, the Demon King Zhao has the blood of the Dragon Clan, the Bold Demon King and the Wancheng Dragon King are close friends, and they are quite friendly with the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas. Chapter 1090_Not what you think. If it really provokes the South Blue Dragon King and does his best to deal with Roja, unless he is so strong that he is not afraid of anyone, it will be really troublesome. The dragon family, who seems to be sluggish on the outside, seems to be able to bully anyone who goes up to it. In this era, it has its own rules of survival. If there was no serious conspiracy behind Sun Wukong at that time, when he walked out of the East Blue Dragon Palace, he directly faced the Heavenly Court. Those mighty monks. I'm not stupid. Roja rolled his eyes at Alcunshin. This girl just likes to think a lot. According to his character, if he does this, he will only go when he is sure. Brother Luo, don't be impulsive. Alcun's face was a little worried. If his own man really killed that Alkai, it would be small for the two of them to roam the four continents. The Dragon King was chasing and beating, and invited Heavenly Court Master, that would be a bad thing. Don't talk about this, I still have things to do now, but now I have to get out of this gossip furnace first. Roja waved his hand to divert the topic. He said that the people who want to slaughter are only divided into slaughter now and slaughter later. Otherwise, it's not that easy. Want to go? Alcun's face was even more worried. She had just returned with such tragic scars, and she had to leave before taking a long rest. It's no wonder she wasn't worried. There are still some little hooligans left, I'll go kill it. By the way, do you know what thunder and lightning are purple? Roja waved his hand, remembering the punishment just now, and asked more. Brother Luo is talking about the Zishao Shenlei. This type of Shenlei is not very common. There are only two situations that can occur. First, it appears when punishing the sinful person and the creature that is not allowed by heaven and earth. Second, when it appears as a slaughtering tool that the world cannot tolerate, or something that disrupts the order of the devil, it will come. It is said that the power of the Zishao Divine Thunder is so strong that it cannot be taken lightly unless it is a golden immortal. Why does Brother Luo ask this? Alcun looked at Roja curiously. This Zishao Shenlei is extremely rare to see, and his sweetheart Lei Fa is a god. Clearly. Does he want to integrate Zishao Shenlei into himself like the five elements Shenlei? Alcunshin suddenly felt a shiver. The Zishao Divine Thunder was different from the ordinary five elements Divine Lightning. If she got it, she would definitely become a widow based on her brother Luo's current cultivation. Brother Luo, Zishao Shenlei can't touch it, you can't take risks. Understood, I understand, you are at ease, I just asked casually. Seeing Alcunshin's expression, Roja really didn't dare to tell her that he was almost struck by the Zishao Divine Thunder. Under the Golden Fairy, whoever touches it will die. He is still a small loose fairy. He will hang up after wiping it, and there is no living head at all. However, how many creatures are there in the place where the falling star falls? Does the way of heaven even count ants and parasites? To appease this little girl who is always worried about herself, Roja's spiritual sense revealed the gossip furnace and saw that Chai Miaoling was cultivating in that room, activating the ability of the moment, and brought the gossip furnace directly to her body. sighed. This gossip furnace has its own space, and it is easy to move it with you. After all, this space is not very large, which means that it wastes some immortal power, but it is very difficult to get out of this space. Chai Miaoling, wake up, open this gossip furnace. Roha shouted, and Chai Miaoling, who was practicing, suddenly opened his eyes. When a cultivator is cultivating, his 5 senses are sensitive. Unless he enters the legendary realm of the unity of heaven and man, he can be woken up by just a little sound. Shanchang, is that you? Chai Miaoling saw the extra gossip stove in front of her with a bit of confusion on her face. She seemed to have heard the voice of the fairy just now. Tisk, nonsense, open this gossip furnace. Roha smashed his mouth speechlessly. This girl's head seems to be a little too upright, so why are you suspicious? Being trapped by one's own magic weapon is not something to be proud of. Although it was a temporary measure at the time, others didn't know it. Chai Miaoling was deeply touched by Roha's strength, not to mention that the immortal said that he wanted to avenge her, and he didn't have the slightest distaste for the slightly impatient tone, and obeyed the gossip furnace. Top cover. Chai Miaoling was only a cultivator of the divine mirror, and he didn't have a magic weapon like Ao Kunshin with him. He lifted the lid of the furnace and almost exhausted all his strength. Seeing that the furnace cover opened a little gap, Roha quickly urged Blink to flash out along the open space. Shanchang, you. Chai Miaoling saw that Roha and Ao Kunshin came out together, with a bit of confusion on his face. In a flash, he seemed to think of something, and his face turned red. Miaoling, it's not what you think. Ao Kun's complexion was also red, and he took a step forward, straddling Chai Miaoling's arm. The two got along every day during this period of time. Are there other people nearby who can communicate with each other? Said a lot of private words. Even though Chai Miaoling didn't tell the guess in his heart, Ao Kunshin understood it instantly. It was just that little thing between the man and the woman. Roha's cheeks twitched vivi, and he was embarrassed when he saw the 2 chicks who started whispering. Looking up at Tianyu, it seems that he has no intention of lowering the thunder penalty. Roha was relieved, but he still did not dare to be careless. God knows that if he puts this Deu Bagua furnace into the system warehouse, Tiandao will judge whether it will be he doesn't have the human race's luck protection. You talk first, but I still need to deal with some things, and then explain to you. Roha greeted the 2 of them, and saw the 2 nodded obediently, and put one hand on the gossip stove, urging fast. The ability disappeared in place. The corpse refining sect station, the blood turning sect station, and the Yiki sect station are separated by thousands of miles, forming a corner of each other. Originally, the establishment of the 3 sects was for a common purpose. Shinyu-Hujo Buddhism is very powerful, and Taoism will naturally not sit and watch Buddhism gradually prosper. It is inevitable to find ways to stop it. Moreover, among the thousands of disciples of the intercepted sect, many of them were transferred to the west by the Junti. Even if the intercepted sect is in disarray now, the heart of wanting his fellow apprentices and brothers to regain their freedom is changeless. It is a pity that shortly after the establishment of the 3 schools, the voices in the sect were divided into 2 factions. One faction was centered on Taoism and wanted to jointly explain the teaching and the teaching of the people, and jointly resist Buddhism. One faction thinks that the other party is a traitor who intercepts the religion. If it wasn't for explaining the religion at the beginning, how could the brothers who intercepted the religion be on the list of conferred gods, or be accepted as that mount? Chapter 1081-Good Assist. Wen Zhang, as the leader of the 3 generations of disciples of the intercepting teaching, and having a 7 orifices and an exquisite heart, had a long-term vision and felt a great threat to the development of Buddhism. He was the first to stand up and jointly explain the teaching. And Lei Junzi, who was also in the lay department, naturally became his first target. This move undoubtedly made Yu Hua quite dissatisfied. For this reason, Wen Zhang could only bring Yu Yuan again and wanted Yu Yuan. It's for the master's face and the overall situation. It's just that when Zhonggao looked at Yu Hua, or underestimated the degree of disgust among the people in the intercepts. Although Gurren was a white lotus and lotus leaf, the three religions were originally one family. The crowd gritted their teeth in hatred. As the leader of the fourth generation of disciples, Yu Hua was the first to accuse Wen Zhongshu of forgetting his ancestors, forgetting how the intercepting church was defeated, and how the brothers and elders were sent to the list of gods. This move was echoed by many disciples, and even many of the three generations of disciples, as well as the 10 heavenly monarch of the outer sect, all stood on Yu Hua's side. The second generation disciples were powerless to stop the noise below, or in other words, they didn't want to stop it. No matter which party they were, they all had their own considerations. Speaking of Taoism as a whole, any further struggle is just an internal dispute, but Buddhism's intervention is jealous, and Chanjiao was too cruel in the battle of conferring the gods, and he didn't give any way to intercept it, but let the Buddhists come to take advantage of it. No matter how nice it sounds, the three sects were originally one family, but the current appearance of the sects is really because of that sect, but this hatred is not so easy to forget. Even if the Buddhist sect is big and occupies 4 continents, what if the sect has long since dispersed, and the struggle for the lineage of Taoism is not worth it? Intercepting the high-level leaders in a dilemma, and under the contradictions in their hearts, they just let it go and let the battle intensify. This is still the case above, not to mention the bottom. Wen Zhang has always been stubborn, and Yu Huasho is a leftist, even more paranoid. The purpose was gradually forgotten. With the passage of time, the three sects were not far apart, and the corpse refining sect and the blood transformation sect, both of which practiced in the left way, naturally joined together, and the battle gradually began to escalate. This time, the blood transformation sect and the corpse refining sect accidentally got information about the world-destroying Black Lotus, which became the fuse of this annihilation. Zuo Dao cultivator does not cultivate merits and virtues, and is not pleased by the Tao of heaven, because some methods are harmful to the heaven and harmony, and if he is not careful, he will impose the thunder penalty. The monks will also turn into fly ash. The world-destroying Black Lotus is the treasure of the Taoist protector of the demon ancestor Rahu, and its ability is called heaven-defying. The person who holds it is not disturbed by karma, inner demons, external demons, and 3 disasters. No punishment from heaven, no invasion of inner demons, no calamity to kill, no calamity to destroy the world. Thinking about that demon ancestor Luohu, as an innate god and demon, he wiped out the living beings that the West had done, everything withered, and there was no punishment from heaven. In the end, he forced the newly sanctified Daozu Hongjun to invite all the great people among the congenital gods and demons. A capable person, combined with the power of the immortal execution sword Ure, can completely kill it. The efficacy of this world-destroying Black Lotus can make people drool. Zuo Dao cultivator, as long as he gets him, he can enter the realm very quickly. It's just that Roha doesn't know this yet. In his previous life, he heard about the ox fork of the 12th grade Black Lotus, but he only knew one of the 2, and no one explained it. How could he understand it? Clear. When Roha was rushing to the 2 sects of the blood transformation sect and the corpse refining sect, the 2 sects were already in chaos. Not long ago, they saw the sky-high mushroom cloud thousands of miles away. This kind of vision of heaven and earth, let alone thousands of miles apart, is 3,000 or 4,000 miles away. Although it is not affected, people who cultivate the Tao can clearly feel it. In the sect, the primordial spirit cards of the sect master, elders, and disciples shattered one after another, and the 2 left behind people were completely panicked. They did not receive any communication. Under such a sudden change, it is a strange thing not to think about it. It has been a few days since the destruction of the first sect, and they couldn't help guessing in their hearts, whether it was the ancestor of the first sect in the court who heard about it and came from the lower realm. But 1 year in the sky, 1 day on the ground, even if the news is received, is there such a fast lower realm? To know that the immortals descended to the world, you must pass the will of the Jade Emperor, the fastest, and you have to wait until the early morning report the next day to get instructions. At that time in the sky, for the lower realm, there should be a few hundred days of effort. How long has it been now? It's not even 10 days. Could it be that the ancestor of that gas is a private mortal world? Under the panic, the elders of the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect who stayed behind had to resort to thunderous means to skin and extract the souls of the disciples who wanted to escape, and hang them outside the sect as an example. This method of killing chickens and warning monkeys made the disciples of the two sects gather together in pairs, and when their lives were threatened, they could still tell which one was better to deal with, the elders of their sects and the ancestors of the sect. Just before they could act, Roja had already arrived outside the sect of the blood transformation sect. With a sneer on Roja's face, Zhou Tianxing's pupils couldn't help turning as he looked at the blood-changing sect station that was heavily protected by the mountain guard formation. This mountain protection formation was left by Yu Hua himself in the lower bounds. It can be said that it has abolished the power of 9 bulls and 2 tigers. It is the ordinary Tai loose immortal, and when the Tai real immortal comes, there is nothing that can be done. Zhou Tianxing's pupils can see through all illusions. As the stars circulate, he can see the pivot area of this formation. There is a middle-stage Sanxian elder of the blood transformation sect guarding it, and another early Sanxian elder is in the area. At the entrance of the sect, a group of disciples were shouted loudly. After all, the disciples wanted to flee, so they couldn't just sit back and ignore it. If they waited until their ancestor Yuhua was in the lower realm and saw the sect that was torn apart, they would definitely not have any good fruit to eat. During the communication with Heavenly Court just now, Wen Zhang, the ancestor of the previous one, didn't have time to report to the Jade Emperor. That is to say, the huge mushroom cloud was not caused by the immortals of the previous session. It's just an indisputable fact when the sect master and all the disciples died. Even if the two of them tried to calm down at this time, they were actually beating drums in their hearts. It's really a good assist. Roja looked at the blood transformation sect Sanxian elder who stopped the disciples and prevented them from running away, and muttered to himself, with a slightly cruel smile on his face. Chapter 1092-Enter the Blood Sect. He has long understood the principle of eliminating evil and doing his best in the two worlds. As the saying goes, if you cut grass without eradicating its roots, it will regenerate when the spring breeze blows. Only by eliminating all these people can he sit back and relax. Moreover, now he urgently needs some merits, and one merit can compete with karma. As long as the merits are not too bad, even if he wants to put away the Dayu Bagua furnace, he does not have to worry about being caught by the robbery. That Zishaoshan Lei, Ao Kungsan's little girl, said that non-Jinxian should not be light-hearted. Now that he was hacked, he was really looking for death. Originally, he was planning to try a wave after the injury was healed, but now he has directly dismissed the idea. These Zuo Dao monks are undoubtedly the best machines for extracting merit. Among the two cases, there are 2,000 people in total. Although it is definitely not as good as the people in the first air gate, but other than this, he really does not know where to find merit. Now is not the time when the heavens and the earth were first opened. If you casually compose a word or spread a Dao, you can get a lot of merit. If you want merit, you have to work hard and be cruel. Just like the Saitagarbha Bodhisattva in the underworld, for the sake of merit, he directly made a great vow, and he vowed not to become a Buddha if the hell is not empty. Little brats, Grandpa is here. Zhou Tianxing's pupils turned in Roja's eyes, and with murderous intent, the karma on his body began to boil, making him feel as if he had used the Wolf Clan's immortal mode in Naruto world. Generally. Moreover, the murderous intent that went straight to the primordial spirit was much more ferocious than the small wind and waves of the Wolf Clan. In an instant, his black hair was dyed that blood-red color, and it looked as if he would be enchanted at any time. Fuck. Feeling the karma boiling on his body, Roja felt even more embarrassed. This thing is simply pervasive. He has just revealed a little murderous intent, and this karma wants to erode his primordial spirit. Trying to suppress the erosion of karma, Roja's desire for merit is even deeper. No one wants to have something threatening him behind his back at all times. This karma must be contained. With Judian Yulei blade in hand, with a flash, he entered this mountain protection formation. Because he was only an elder in the middle stage of Sanxian, the power of this formation was greatly reduced, and people from Tai realm came, and they could easily break it, and there will be no blockade for space. Swish! Roha appeared next to the formation center in an instant, with a strong 5-element extinction divine thunder on the 9 heavens imperial thunder blade in his hand, and the dim thunder light stabbed straight at the back of the middle-level Sanxian elder who was fully controlling the formation. The middle-stage Sanxian elder felt the murderous aura behind him, his face changed greatly, and he fell to the side subconsciously. It was this blow that saved his own life. Scoff tilde. An arm flew out horizontally, and the separation of flesh and bones did not hinder the Zanpakuto in the slightest. Roha saw the actions of the Sanxian elders, and his heart was crooked for a while. This is so special, it was just because of karma that it was exposed. His position. Although he was unhappy in his heart, Roha's movements were not slow. Between the backhand and the horizontal knife, the 9 heavens and 10 earths avoiding demon shuttle, in the Dantian turned into the size of a jujube nucleus, like a ray of black light, going straight through the middle elder of the Sanxian Xian. Of Dantian. 9 heavens and 10 earths avoiding demon's shuttle. Although it is a magic weapon for flying, the material is so hard that it is incomparable to the weapons of many practitioners. It is nothing to be used for killing. The Sanxian elder of the blood transformation sect was in a panic and could only see the flickering dim thunder light. Puff tilde. The sound of breaking the silk sounded, and the Shenshuo directly stabbed a pair of piercings on the body of the middle stage Sanxian elder without any defense. His body froze in place, his eyes were angered, leaving only the magic weapon that was still lingering. Attack Roha. The Dantian is the key point of the cultivator, and the importance of the immortal energy is self-evident. Once it is pierced, let alone a loose immortal, as long as it does not reach the realm of the 3 flowers gathering and the 5 Qi Chaoyuan, it is a waste. Although the magic weapon was attacking Roha, but without the full force of the Sanxian elder behind him, the power was several times smaller, and the Judean Yule blade didn't use much strength to knock it all away. Who are you? How did you get into my mountain protection formation? Do you know that my blood transformation sect is? Elder Sanxian was waiting to shout loudly, seeking the last chance for himself, but before he could finish speaking, he felt his eyes keep spinning, and he saw his headless body. The soul was separated from the body, and the elder of the middle stage Sanxian had not had time to go to the underworld. A sunflower water god and thunder that followed closely scattered his soul and completely disappeared between the heaven and the earth. Who has the time to listen to your nonsense? Roha threw the 9 heavens thunder blade in his hand, and the bloodstains on it all disappeared when the lightning flashed. Looking at the formation on the side, it seemed that it could still run for a while. The 9 heavens thunder blade in Roha's hand turned into the 5 elements divine lightning, and went straight towards the sky of the blood transformation sect. The thunder light sounded, and more than 1,000 disciples of the blood sect raised their heads in amazement, only to see that dense thunderclouds began to form in their mountain protection formation. The luster of the 5 elements divine thunder is intertwined and flickering in it, and there is the dim great 5-star extermination divine thunder, which exudes a frightening aura. 1. The ancestor of the one valve has come to take revenge. A disciple's voice trembled, his face full of fear. The 5 elements of thunder and the 5 elements of escape are the symbols of the one valve, and Wenzong's 9 days should be thundered. The title of Hua Tianzun is not a decoration. The elders in the early stage of the blood transformation sect were also full of sluggishness. Looking at the thunder in the sky, their hearts were shocked, and they subconsciously looked at the mountain protection formation on the side. This mountain protection formation is managed by another elder. How can the enemy slip in easily? There is an inner ghost in this sect, or is it the magical power of the enemy that can already see the sect as nothing? No matter what kind of situation it is a very bad thing for him. The elders in the early stage of loose immortal already have the mind to run first, but now the mountain protection formation is still running, people outside can't get in, and people inside can't get in. If the person can't get out, how can he run away? Wrong. Seeing that the surrounding formations had a faint trend of diminishing power, the elder moved in his heart, and already guessed that another elder who controlled the formation had suffered an accident, and he was suddenly shocked. The enemy has already sneaked into our sect guarding the mountain, and the disciples have formed a formation. We will unload our strength to meet the enemy, and we will have a chance to win. The Sanxian elder shouted sharply, and several magical treasures flew high in the sky, but he quietly walked towards the edge of the formation. Chapter 1093-Merit Extractor. The Zulu Dao cultivator has always been ruthless and ruthless. He is ruthless towards himself and even more ruthless towards others. With the attitude of the elder of the blood transformation sect, he obviously wants to treat many disciples as scapegoats. Run, can you run? Roja walked out of the hub of the Great Formation and looked at the more than 1,000 disciples of the blood transformation sect who were waiting for him, with a murderous expression on his face. This big formation is like a ready-made slaughterhouse, trapping them firmly, and they can't escape. According to the speed of the formation's decay, it will take at least half an hour to completely disappear. The elder Sanxian who retreated to the edge of the formation looked at the surroundings with a slightly anxious expression, restrained his breath, and used an ordinary-looking skeleton to protect himself in it. That appearance obviously wanted to pretend to be himself. That ordinary disciple. It's just that the power of Roja's primordial spirit has long exceeded the realm of the original loose immortal. Vivi swept it and found it accurately. The surrounding disciples of the blood transformation sect looked at the several kinds of hair floating in the sky, as if they had listened to the nonsense of their own elders, and waited for Roja who came out of the formation hub. It's a bunch of rabble. Roja stood on the high platform and looked at the disciples of the blood transformation sect who kept retreating with his own footsteps. His face was full of disdain. Concentrating spirit realm, refining divine mirror, concentrating spirit realm, and transforming spirit realm, there are two elders. Among the thousands of people, the most numerous is actually the lowest level of concentration realm. When the bloodless Taoist attacked a door, obviously take away most of the battle power in the sect. No matter how many rabble there are, for people who have reached the level of Roja, they are like ants, and they have no meaning at all. Even if the disciples in the contemplative state, even if they lie down and let them kill, they have no threat to themselves. Hearing Roja's words, the disciples of the blood sect didn't have the courage to refute at all. The man on the opposite side was covered in thunderlight, and the scarlet long hair scattered behind him looked even more like the left monk than them, even called the magic monk. All about the same. Ling Ran's murderous aura almost turned into substance in the air, with a luster-like blood plasma, with a demonic aura that made people nauseous. A gossip furnace floating behind it rose and fell, and the golden light and its shape mixed together. It looks terrifying and terrifying. Dehu Bagua furnace. Because of the rush of time, Roja never had time to sacrifice, but he forcibly recorded his own soul brand on it. Although he could not use the functions such as refining and alchemy, he is only it's just borrowing the fate of the human race on it. Ridden, shaped like a sea of blood, is this person. A demon cultivator. The blood transformation sect Sanxian elder hid far away. After Vivi glanced at Roja, he felt goosebumps all over his body even more. The world of demon cultivators cannot tolerate it, and it is said that it has disappeared for 10,000 years, but this person in front of him has such deep karma that he has not yet been punished to death by that day. Roja didn't even look at the elders in the early stage of Sanxian, and when he saw himself, he was embarrassed. To suppress and kill him, there was absolutely no need to use a second knife. If you want to complain, just complain that you have entered this blood transformation sect. The voice did not contain the slightest pity. Roja pointed to the sky, and the endless thunder in the sky formed by the combination of the 9 heavens thunderblade and thunder cloud seemed to be ordered. Generally, it falls like rain. Click, click. After such a long deliberation, thousands of sunflowers and thunders fell madly in the sky, and the diameter of the thunder pillars was the size of a bucket. How could this group of immortal cultivators be able to resist? Tianlei, how can there be so many Tianlei, that is Kui Shui Yin Lei, which destroys people's souls? No, No, I was forced to join. At the moment of seeing the thunder in the sky, the legs and feet of the disciples of the blood transformation sect trembled, but this thunder was more than their number. The least was divided into one, the more was divided into 3 or 4, and the sound of screaming and screaming for a while everywhere. The monks who were lucky enough to block one hadn't had time to breathe a sigh of relief, and the next thunderbolt came one after another. There were less than 20 monks in the spiritual realm combined, and they were all taken care of one after another. In a moment, they broke through the defense and smashed on top of their souls. One after another, charred corpses lay on the ground, and after Kui Shui Yin lay wiped out their 3 souls and 7 souls, they didn't stop at all, not even letting go of their bodies. The only one who can barely resist is the Sanxian elder of the blood transformation sect, but this Sanxian elder is facing more and more, and even dozens of sunflower water yin lei have been left and right. All treasures, return, Elder Sanxian shouted loudly, knowing that the other party had discovered him, and in order to survive, he struggled to recall the many magic weapons that were used as bait just now. It's all released, what are you going to do with it, buried with you? Standing in the sky with his arms crossed, Roha's voice came directly into the elder's ears. Shangxian, I didn't attack the one valve. I don't approve of the one valve thing. I asked to let the villain live. The villain is willing to be a bull and a horse to repay the great kindness. When he heard this voice, Elder Sanxian trembled violently, and his spiritual sense glanced around. Except for himself, all the disciples had turned into scorched corpses. Hiding in the corner shivering. Who said I was killing you for one thing? Remember, you are a merit extractor. Roha had a hint of playfulness on his face. The thunderclouds in the sky spun rapidly, and as the number of uses increased, the use of Lei Fa has become more and more skilled. Click. The 5 elements divine thunder quickly gave birth to the great 5 elements extinguishing divine thunder. The 1-meter-long thunder column pierced down from the sky. The speed and power gave the Sanxian elders no chance to escape at all. The merit extractor, Elder Sanxian muttered to himself, with an unbelievable expression on his face. When did the monk Zuodao have such a shameful title? Shouldn't everyone be afraid of it? Boom. Before the elder thought about it, the thunderbolt landed on him. The raging thunderbolt smashed all the protective treasures he hastily recalled into pieces, and he himself was turned into powder in the thunder. Roha didn't care about the death of this Sanxian elder at all, turned his head to look at the yin demon inspector on the ground, and formed a 9-character mantra fingerprint in his hand. Under the ferocious immortal power, the light and shadow of this aquarium quickly grew larger, and there was a faint chanting sound of Zen Buddhism, and a golden ripple swept the entire blood transformation sect. Hey! The surrounding yin demons and Li Gui screamed again and again, but Roha snorted lightly. With this treasure bottle mark, the karma on his body actually had a tendency to be pressed back into his body. Chapter 1094-absorb the ghostly fire. The Buddhist supernatural power seems to have a strong restraint on karma, and the effect of the power of merit has been slightly increased. Roha frowned slightly, and his mind was speculated, but he was not sure. The 12-grade golden lotus of merit is owned by the Western Taoist. He will naturally create some suitable means for this golden lotus. Even the golden lotus of merit has its own rhythm. I am afraid that many magical powers of Buddhism still evolve according to the rhyme on the golden lotus. Come. The 9-character mantra mudra was originally supposed to be owned by Taoism, but it was only later that the great master Xuandu turned Hu into a Buddha and brought the 9-character mantra mudra to Buddhism. Roha's 9-character mantra handprint was opened from the system's treasure box, and it looked like this after it came out. Although I don't know what the connection is, this thing is indeed somewhat unique. Each of the 9 mantra handprints has extraordinary effects. The combination of the 9 seals can even create a Buddha statue that penetrates the sky and the earth. Now, with the energy in the body turned into immortal power, the power of the 9-character mantra is also rising. It seems that this thing has to be studied after going back. Roha muttered to himself. After the karma was suppressed, his hair turned black again, which was originally visible to the naked eye, almost forming a real murderous aura also disappeared. The surrounding ghosts and yin demons roared again and again, and souls were constantly being washed clean, removing the filth of that sound, and they kept kowtowing on the ground. Let's go. Roha waved his hand, although when he washed these souls, he paid attention to wanting some merit, but seeing these thousands of dead souls kowtow, his heart was somewhat touched. Many deceased souls thanked them and dived into the ground one after another, heading for the 9 secluded places. They have suffered so much in this life, but in the next life they will definitely be able to choose a good family, and the cause and effect of 3 lives, but this kind of thing is not clear. Seeing the blood-changing sect that was completely destroyed under the thunder of the sky, without a trace of vitality, Roha pouted, turned his head and looked to the side, a building that was not particularly conspicuous. Although this building looks unremarkable, in the thunder just now, there is basically no damage, and the strength is comparable to that of the sect hall. The 3 big characters, treasure house, on it made Roha raise his eyebrows, and with a move in his heart, the ability to activate brief entered the treasure house. Shish. Whoa. As soon as the feet landed, countless silver needles were shot around, and the silver needles were tinged with blue and red air, which was not a good thing at first glance. In addition to the silver needle, there is also a green flame that has never been seen before. This green flame is different from the fiery and mysterious feeling of the green lotus fire in the center of the earth. Below, you can vaguely see ghosts roaring among them. Ghost and yin fire. Take you as an appetizer first. Roha waved all the poisonous silver needles shot into the air, looking at the swept flames, a smile appeared on his face. The power of Feng Ju revolves rapidly in the body. After the assimilation of Shengqing Xuantan secret seal, the power of Feng Ju is also not what it used to be. The sea is generally absorbed by burning Ju. When Roha was learning the art of refining, he saw this ghostly fire on the jade slip. It is the unique flame of the 9 Netherland. It does not burn ordinary objects, ghosts, or even the flesh or essence. God, just burn that immortal essence demon power. Ordinary creatures, if they are mortals who pass by, even if they are burned for a day and a night, there will be no serious problems, but if they are a cultivator, they do not have superb fireproof tactics, or magic weapons, and they will be transformed directly with immortal power. For nothing. In normal battles, if the enemy is caught in this flame, it will be a bit of trouble. After all, whether it is flying through the clouds or escaping into the sea, it is all based on immortal power. Of course, this is not its main effect. Any cultivator with a little knowledge will not let this flame approach, and naturally cannot pose a threat to the enemy. Its greatest effect is that it can burn the magic weapon that others have sacrificed and refined. Think about winning a treasure from someone, but the other party fled away, unless the level of speaking and action is far beyond the other party's, or the other party's treasure can only be seen and can't be used. The brand of the primordial spirit is easy to erase, but if it has been sacrificed for a long time, the magic weapon has long been infiltrated by the immortal power of the other party, and Dao Yun has been warm and nourished for many years. Useful. Think about it. If you get an acquired spiritual treasure and burn it for a year and a half, you can burn away the traces of the opponent's sacrifice, but if you take the opponent's life magic weapon, it will be more interesting. If the magical treasure of life is exchanged for cultivation, if the magical treasure is damaged, the owner of the magical treasure will be seriously injured even if he does not die. Although the magical treasure will be turned into waste later, it is definitely a good thing for Yin people. Burning Ju between the whale swallowing and siphoning, Roha only felt that a slightly cold breath came from his body, but this flame was much more difficult to deal with than the original earth-centered green lotus fire. Sitting cross-legged, closed his eyes to run Feng Ju with all his strength, and after half a day, the flame was gradually subdued, and under Feng Ju it was directed like an arm and used for one's own use. This ghostly yin fire is originally used to protect this treasure house. After all, this kind of flame, ordinary monks can't surrender at all, and when they come up, they burn immortal power and demon power. How can they be subdued? Even if you can store it with a magic weapon, but you have the skills to conquer this flame. Most monks will make some flames such as fire in stone, fire in wood, and fire in the air. After all, if you have the opportunity, you may be able to become that samadhi true fire. Tisk tisk, not bad, Fenju is another level. After Roha subdued this ghostly creature, the Xuanduni fire robe, which was originally bright red and glowed with green lotus, faintly showed a hint of coldness. The gloomy aura was the connection between Fenju and the Zanpakuto, making them both able to be used in common. Fengju, the potential is endless. At the beginning, Roha thought that its top level was the 10th level, but after absorbing the ghostly yin fire at this time, it was still advanced to the 9th level, but the top level after that was still a question mark. Thinking about that fight, in the later stage, it was common to destroy a world with a wave of his hand, so he was relieved. I was afraid that this Fengju would still have great potential to be tapped in the future. As soon as he entered the gate of the treasure house, Roha made a fortune. In his eyes, Zhou Tianxingxing's pupils moved slightly, and he saw the magic weapon that released the ghosts and yin fire in the guardian array. Unfortunately, the magic weapon was broken into countless pieces at this time. However, it is much more convenient to use this ghostly yin fire for one's own use than magic weapons. Now this Xuandu Nihuo robe can obviously feel a lot of improvement. Chapter 1095-I love you Baba. His own strength is more important than anything else. This ghostly creature has brought Roha's fire escape to a new level. The only thing he doesn't often use in the current 5-element escape technique is the fire escape. However, according to his estimation, the fire department junction in Heavenly Court is far from him compared to using fire escape, and there are still Bone Spirit Cold Fire and Samadhi True Fire in the system warehouse waiting for him to absorb after returning. If it is completely absorbed, I am afraid that it is Luo Zan, the King of Fire and Virtue in the south of the Ministry of Fire, who is no match for him. Roha shook his head and threw away the crazy thoughts in his mind. After all, there are still a lot of good things in the treasure house waiting for him to retrieve. Time is running out. The corpse refining sect, heaven knows if it will wait for him like the blood transformation sect. With Zhou Tianxingxing's ability to see through all kinds of falsehoods, the trigger-style small formations, hidden weapons, and poisonous miasma in the treasure house can't help Roha. Simply, let him come to the treasure land. Looking around, there are countless treasures of heaven and earth, ore and gold essence, and on the shelf on the side, there are dozens of finished magic weapons. It's just that most of these magic weapons are skeletons, jade bones, blood flags, and animal heads. Roha feels a lack of interest at a glance. The most precious treasure of the blood transformation sect is probably the imitation that was put away by himself. The blood god knife, and other magic weapons, didn't seem like a lot of fun. Most of these magical treasures contain ghosts and ghosts. Roha directly destroyed them all, released the ghosts and ghosts, waved the treasure bottle seal, and sent all these things to reincarnation. For Roha, who is now very interested in treasure refining, things like heaven and earth treasures, he will not be too much, just a moment of effort, the things in this treasure house will be swept away. Although it is said that many materials were used to refine the blood-turning sword in the warehouse, but with the background of 10,000 years, the things in the blood-turning sect are more than the things in the corpse-repelling Sumeru ring. Much more. After the search was completed, Zhou Tianxingxing glanced around, and after there was no hidden space missing, Roha urged Shining to leave here directly. The huge blood transformation sect, in addition to the massive treasures of heaven and earth, actually does not have a treasure of the level of Juran Zima, which is really tight. But think about it, if there is a treasure of that level, the bloodless Taoist will definitely carry it with him, so how can he put it in this treasure house? The bloodless Taoist was killed by Roha long ago, his soul was scattered, and his body was turned into molecular particles under the meteorite. I am afraid that there are treasures on him, and now there is no scum left. Leaving the Zongmin station of the blood transformation sect, Roha took the Deu Bagua furnace, floating behind him, and immediately came to the Zongmin station of the corpse refining sect. The corpse refining sect was all gathered there at this time, in front of the Zongmin Hall. A group of disciples, under the leadership of the leading late-stage loose immortal elder and early loose immortal elder, with fanatical expressions on their faces, knelt down in front of the main hall, and recited the mantra in unison. Quote, 3,000 avenues, I go to the side door, not afraid of danger, not afraid of the other eye, and the sky will pity. A loud shout, mixed with true essence and immortal power, echoed in front of the hall. The disciples of the corpse refining sect, with less than 500 people, actually created a formation of 10,000 people. Every disciple has their strongest corpse, either a human corpse, or a monster corpse. The breath varies, but they are all kneeling stiffly on the ground just like these disciples. Above the main hall of the corpse refining sect, a beam of light rises, and it seems to be moving slowly and quickly in the direction of the heaven. The god of plague, Lu Yu, actually left the corpse refining sect with a means of calling him to the lower realm. Who is Lu Yu? Maybe only by name. Others only think he is a nobody, even Roha. At first, he just remembered in a trance. It seems that such a person appeared in the battle of conferring the gods. But after getting to know him from Aokunshin, he is really a shocking spirit, and this guy must be a great god. In the Battle of Function, the most famous one had 4 appearances. For the first time, one person fought against Zhou Jun Zhangzia, Yang Jian, Huang Tianhua and Tu Xingsun Admiral without falling behind. The second time, Lu Yu showed 3 heads and 6 arms, and one person chased Wanglong Zhenren, one of the 12 golden immortals, and fled. It was only when Nezha, Yang Jian, and Yuding Zhenren came to help that he was able to block him. After Jin Za, Mu Za, Huang Tianhua, Long Zuhu and Tu Xingsun attacked, Lu Yu couldn't resist and retreated. When they appeared for the third time, Lei Junzi, Li Jing, Jin Za, Mu Za, Nezha and Wei Hu rushed forward. Seeing this, Zhang Zia hurriedly slapped up Lu Yu's back, causing Lu Yu to be defeated and return to the camp. The fourth time he appeared, it was when Lu Yu was dead. The fighting power of this guy was not good, but Ren Chanjiao was the best at fighting in groups. In the end, he was burned to ashes by the 5 fire and 7 bird fans, and he was listed on the list of gods. If Lu Yu was recruited, he would even play a hammer. That guy is a Taoist comprehension of the golden immortal realm, and he also cultivates the left-handed way, and the tyrannical body can also use the supernatural powers of the Taoist. A blocked space, and then there is a seal of plague. He has to talk about life with the king tonight, and he doesn't even have a chance to talk about life, and there is no room for resistance at all. Can heavenly gods descend to earth privately? The decrees of the heavenly court are so severe that even the supreme god of the Ministry of Plague, Lu Yu, will definitely be severely punished after returning. Wrong. This is the corpse refining sect. Lu Yu can't go down to earth, but his corpse can. Whoops. My day, you Baba. Roha scolded inwardly, activating the ability of the moment, and came to the sky above the hall in the blink of an eye. He could see that it was the great magic weapon in the shape of the hall, which had the ability to connect to the upper realm. The most important thing at the moment is to interrupt the other party's method that can make people private in the mortal world. Even if it is a corpse puppet, can Lu Yu's corpse puppet and the corpse puppet be on the same level? Although he has never seen this bully used in the conferred god battle, it is very likely that this corpse puppet cannot be used as a powerful means for him, but even a corpse puppet with the strength of Tai Junxian can make Roha hold his head and run away. In his hand, he took out the heaviest big pan-heavenly axe. Roha smashed Washin with all his strength, exhausted all his strength, and slammed the axe towards the hall. Bang! Boom! After the violent collision, the main hall fell apart. After all, it was just a magical thing. It was a great treasure. Even if the quality was good, it was a bit worse than the 8-pan heavenly axe. The main hall was destroyed, and seeing the golden light cut off, Roha sighed in relief. Chapter 1096_Use Your Life. As long as Lu Yu, god of plague, was prevented from sending those powerful corpse puppets down to earth, the disciples and elders of the corpse refinement sect in front of him would be no different from the lambs to be slaughtered. Who? The elder in the late stage of Sanxian shouted sharply. The figure that was originally kneeling on the ground bounced up instantly, and patted the 8-foot-long coffin behind him, 3 corpse puppets and the strong corpse puppet standing beside him. Escort it in it. Your ancestor. Roja was unhappy in his heart. If he was late for a while, when he arrived, it would be no different from the dish delivered to the door. The tone at this time was naturally not polite at all. Demon Dao, the mere peak of scattered immortals dares to break into the great formation of my sect. If I spoil my sect's invitation to the gods, you will be smashed to ashes today. Yana's undisguised realm cultivation. The elder of this corpse-refining sect didn't care about being said to be an ancestor. He was a cultivator of the left way, and he didn't care about the ancestors. His grandfather stopped him from cultivating immortals, and he was personally sent to Wangquan. Fuck, I'm a demon, Roja scolded secretly, seeing that after the 9-character mantra disappeared, the murderous intention was revealed just now, and the hair turned blood red again. I really don't know how to refute. His current appearance is full of murderous intentions. If it is not a demon, no one will believe it. He almost wrote the words, "I am a bad person," on his face. However, this person who traveled to the world to the west, why is he not tearing his skin and breaking his bones, or smashing his bones into ashes, and if he dies, he is a personal oil to light a lamp, and his soul is the core, so he can't be a little creative. The corpse elder, the other party is not good, it is better to meet the enemy first, and the matter of asking God is urgent. The elders in the early stage of Sanxian also looked gloomy, but they were calm, knowing that now is not the time to talk about this. Hey, dirty corpse, you don't need to say more about this kind of thing. All the disciples, form an array to meet the enemy. The mountain guard disciples, open the plague formation. The late Sanxian boiled corpse snorted coldly, and then shouted loudly. The main hall was destroyed, and the ceremony of inviting God was broken, which also made his heart extraordinarily worried. The unknown and powerful enemies thousands of miles away, the falling meteors and the extraordinary supernatural powers, are simply not something they can deal with. They don't invite the immortals from the upper realms to come down, and what awaits them may only be death. This loose immortal elder obviously will not connect Roja with the huge meteor that landed at a valve station thousands of miles away. He is the late loose immortal, and he naturally knows how capable this realm is. That level of means, let alone a true immortal, even a tiny loose immortal, may not be able to release it, the power to destroy the sky and the earth. Even if Roja now tells him that the meteorite was released by himself, this Sanxian elder would not believe it. Plague formation. Roja couldn't help frowning when he heard the words of the elder Sanxian. This plague formation was the housekeeping formation of Lu Yu, the god of plague. At the beginning of the battle of conferring gods, Zhang Zia was trapped for 100 days. Just these shrimp soldiers and crab generals, can they set up a plague formation? Just kidding. Even if it can be displayed, the power is estimated to be very different. While in his heart, Roja simply did not rush to do it. With Vivi under his feet, he sat on the Deu Bagua furnace with Erlang's legs, and watched these people line up with interest. Yao Dao, what's your relationship with that valve? Elder Sanxian saw more than 100 formation bases gradually light up, and he was very determined that this plague formation was the person of Lian Shimon's ancestor Lu Yu. Under the cloth, if you don't practice the corpse sect, you can't resist the plague. At the beginning, the immortal power declined, the 5 senses were weakened, the hands and feet were numb, and the plague poisoned deeply, and it would not take long for it to become that plague corpse. Even tiny loose immortals will be greatly affected if they inhale too much. If they are not careful, their combat power is not even as good as ordinary loose immortals. It doesn't matter, I'm just here to borrow your life to use it today. I have too much karma and it's very worrying. Roja shrugged indifferently, and said murderous words, but it sounded like it's as casual as borrowing a piece of paper towel. You are a demon cultivator. Aojie heard Roja's words and saw the scarlet aura emanating from his body. His body couldn't help trembling, and there was a look of horror on his face. No matter what era the magic cultivator is in, it is a terrifying existence in the legend. It uses karma to improve its cultivation, kills living beings for pleasure, and absorbs the life essence of living beings to supplement itself. Almost every magic cultivator is born. Catastrophe. Demon cultivators follow the path of practitioners. Killing and robbery go with them. Wherever they go, there will be bloody storms. Although many demon cultivators are short-lived, they are truly terrifying. As for Journey to the West, there hasn't been a demon cultivator for nearly 1,000 years. Even many people of the new generation are completely unaware of such a thing. Begin to practice the art of the left way. He had met a demon cultivator twice, and both times, it was like passing by death. If it wasn't for that demon cultivator who didn't look down on the little bit of cultivation in him, I'm afraid now he doesn't know how many times in reincarnation. Many times. Lujay thought of this, and the more he looked at Roja, the more he looked like the demon cultivator he had seen thousands of years ago, with scarlet long hair and blood-red robes, and his body was surrounded by karma and murderous blood mist all the time. The demon cultivator I saw thousands of years ago, it is said that when he became a golden immortal, he encountered divine punishment, and the reason for the divine punishment was very simple. Level. Imagination is so rich. Roja raised his eyebrows, sat on the gossip stove, and watched the plague formation rapidly rise, and the transparent dim light mask completely wrapped the entire corpse refining sect. And a faint yellow mist was slowly expelled from above the mask, running along some kind of mysterious trajectory in this space, and everything around became invisible, even the original distance was only less than tens of meters. The boiled corpse disappeared. Roja Zhou Tianxing's pupils turned, activating his ability to see through all things. His vision was clear, and in the little treasures of the formation, a few giant coffins lit up on the center of the formation, which was where the eyes of the formation were. The fog of the plague formation just approached the whole body, and the Xuanduni fire robe on Roja's body moved spontaneously, and the flames rose, burning and scorching the fog cleanly. Back in the Battle of Conferred God, the method for cracking the plague formation had long been made public, and it was nothing more than a flame. Of course, this flame was not an ordinary flame, and a flame of insufficient level had no effect on it. Sniff tilde cough. Cough. Chapter 1097-Crazy Thunder. Under the curiosity in Roja's heart, he waved his hand to draw a trace of mist, the tip of his nose moved slightly, and he took a breath of the mist of this plague, a smell that made him feel sick to his stomach and made him cough again and again, and rolled his eyes. The plague mist had just entered the body, and before it had any effect, the 5 elements divine thunder and the great 5 elements extinction divine thunder spontaneously went east, and the thunderbolt's electric light, Vice Admiral, was completely erased. Bingwo Shenlei and the great 5 elements extinguishing Shenlei also seemed to have a strong restraint against this plague. This restraint makes the thing mixed with unknown plague germs to have no impact on it. Why does this look like ammonia? Fuck. Roja pinched his nose, soothed his irritated sense of smell, and scolded angrily. The most common places for things like ammonia are the WCs in the previous life and the septic tanks in the countryside. Although I don't know how to calculate it according to the mutual generation and mutual restraint of the 5 elements, Roja is very clear. If the ammonia gas gathers to a certain concentration, it will also explode at a point. The resistance to flames is completely negative. Humph. What can you do if you are a demon cultivator? You realize the power of my corpse refining sect's plague formation. After the plague formation was fully formed, this guy already had a winning smile on his face. Even if he was the suzerain of the blood transformation sect, he had 108 blood river banners to protect himself. As long as he was trapped by this plague formation, sooner or later it is also the material that he slaughtered. He didn't personally control the formation, and naturally he couldn't see that Roja was under the protection of Xuandu's fire robe, and he was not affected at all. Now he has begun to think about how to reorganize the altar of the gods in the hall. I can't help but swear. Roja's complexion was blue, and between waving, the 9 heavens thunderblade in his hand turned into a 5-element divine thunder and flew into the air in this formation. In the face of this kind of guy who can't see anything, he has already begun to be complacent. He is really enough. They say that experience kills people. Rumbling tilde. The sound of thundercloud brewing was right above their heads, and the disciples of the corpse refining sect showed surprise in their expressions, and many people even stunned. Zuo Dao cultivator is most afraid of divine thunder, because 70 to 80% of divine thunder have strong restraint on them. They are monks with one valve. They usually go around. Aojie raised his head in surprise, completely puzzled, why there was such a close thunderous sound, and the strongest corpse puppet beside him instantly merged with it, and yellow clouds rose from his feet, heading towards the formation. The cold sweat on the body of the more than 100 corpse refining sect disciples who were in charge of controlling the plague formation had already begun to rustle. Others could not see the thunder, but they could clearly see it. After the elite disciples were taken away by the sect master, the corpse refining sect had less than 10 disciples in the divine transformation stage, and there were only 2 elders left, one in the late stage of loose immortal and the other in the early stage of loose immortal. According to the judgment of the corpse elders, the other party should be the peak of the scattered immortals. With such a cultivation base, there is no fear of the plague formation, but now the plague formation is not effective, can the 2 elders be able to face each other? The thunder that filled the sky looked extremely terrifying. The 5 elements of thunder were all over it, intertwined, and the other party sat leisurely on the gossip furnace, as if he didn't want to move at all, and made it clear that he would not take the 2 elders in his eyes. The filthy corpse in the early stage of Sanxian was much calmer than the corpse in the later stage of Sanxian, and he looked at problems more intelligently. The corpse had been talking nonsense, but now he was controlling the plague formation with many disciples. The situation. It's not very good. The corpse frowned slightly. He could see the flames swirling around Roja and the divine thunder raging in the sky, and his heart was already a little drummed. However, the strength of the first elder to boil the corpse is still good. If he can have a relationship with the other party, he can wait for the opportunity to take action, and he may be able to take it down. Click. While the corpse was thinking about it, the thunder in the sky had already been brewed. There were only more than 500 disciples in the sect, and the number was less than half of that of the blood sect. Naturally, Shenlei did not need that many. Fall. Roja snorted lowly, raised one hand, Vivi pointed, and the sky-filled Bingwo Shenlei began to fall. Thousands of thunder and lightning, those disciples who are in the realm of the gods, the realm of contemplation, and the mirror of the gods, have no room for resistance at all. Their protective magic weapon, for Bingwo Shenlei, is no different from paper paste. Plague formation. Block. The dirty corpse saw that the thunder began to gather, the formation flag in his hand waved, and the streaks of plague air, like an upside-down pot lid, blocked the Bingwo Shenlei falling from the sky. Bang bang bang. A huge explosion resounded through the sky, and even the plague Huang formation itself was shaky. Bingwo Shenlei's restraint on this formation was obviously beyond the dirty corpse's expectations. What happened? What happened? Lu Jie groaned in his ears from the terrifying sound of the explosion. He didn't have the demeanor of an elder, and asked the surrounding disciples in a slightly flustered manner. It's just that he doesn't know what. How can these disciples know? This state, undoubtedly makes the surrounding disciples also panic. The dirty corpse holding the plague formation felt stuffy in his chest. Looking at the base of the formation, more than 100 disciples spit blood, and the expressions on their faces were even more ugly. He faintly heard the voice of boiling corpse in the formation, and seeing its flustered expression, dirty corpse secretly scolded the boiling corpse as a fool. Although he had the strength of the late stage of loose immortals, his mind was filled with the reincarnation of grains. The reason why the sect master of the corpse refining sect, the corpse, has a late stage Sanxian combat power, but he does not take it to participate in the extermination of a valve, and it is precisely because this guy has more than enough success. All disciples, approach the formation hub and deliver true essence to the host. The dirty corpse threw away the unhappiness in his heart and shouted loudly. This voice, through the transmission of the formation, could be heard clearly by the entire corpse refining sect. Arrive. Cut, when I don't exist, right? Roja sneered in disdain, his finger moved towards the sky Vivi, and a trace of thunder in the sky began to fall crazily again. Although the Bingmotion lay just now was blocked, the hundreds of disciples were already seriously injured, and they couldn't resist the second round of invasion at all. No matter how powerful the formation is, the person who controls the formation is not good enough. This formation is just a decoration. If the sect master of the corpse refining sect, Pai Shi, and the 5 elders under his command are allowed to control it together, this plague formation will probably be Tai. When the powerhouse of the loose immortal level came, he would drink his hatred on the spot. Chapter 1098 Human Bomb. Click, click. The continuous Bingmotion lay fell one after another, more than the number just now. The corpse's complexion changed greatly, and he waved the plague flag in his hand with all his strength, rolling up the plague after another. Ah, there were endless screams in the formation, and those disciples had no chance to retreat at all. Roha Zhou Tianxing Xingxing pupils clearly saw through the surrounding plague. Whoever ran fast would be the first to hack. There were many at a time. The disciples of the corpse refining sect were in a dilemma. Many disciples use the corpse puppet to block disasters, but the corpse puppet is originally generated by the power of evil, and the divine thunder has stronger restraint on them. Turned into ashes. Those souls who had just separated from their bodies had not yet had time to leave for the 9 Serenity Land, when the Kui Shui Yin Lei fell again, knocking them into pieces. The disciples and the surrounding disciples form a plague defense formation. Hurry up. You will be safe when you reach the base of the formation. The corpse kept shouting loudly, and the plague flag in his hand tried his best to intercept the thunder in the sky. It is really unstoppable, and it is not hard to carry. If the more than 100 disciples around them continue to carry it hard, they will be shocked to death by the force of the shock. Array base. Array base. He has been trying his best to defend Bingmotion Lei's boiled corpse with a defensive magic weapon. At this time, when he heard the words of the dirty corpse again, he just woke up like a dream, while dodging the Bingwo god in the sky. Lei, while walking towards the nearest formation base. It's all said. Don't think about running. Roha raised his eyebrows, without the slightest emotional fluctuation on his face. The power of Xuandu's fire robe rose sharply, and the seal of Yin was formed in his hand. Boom. Fenju, Xuandu Nihu Opao, and Huodun moved at the same time. The sea of fire spread, the heat wave swept through, the green lotus fire in the center of the earth, the volcanic fire, and the ghost and mythical creature Yin fire, all of a sudden flew away to the surrounding. Wow tilde. All kinds of flames. After encountering the gas of plague, their strength increased rather than decreased, and the fire rose sharply. Boiling the corpse is the cultivation base of the late stage of Sanxian. Even if the brain is not bright, the strength is still there, and at the moment when the sea of fire spreads, it flashes close to the formation. Go away. He grabbed the plague flag from one of the disciples' hands, and waved the corpse again and again, pouring immortal power into the plague flag as if he didn't want money, and dancing desperately with one hand. The chi of plague in the plague formation soared, turning into streaks of violent energy, rushing towards the thunder in the sky without dodging or avoiding it. Pu tilde U tilde. The disciples on the formation base could only do their best to cooperate to boil the corpse, but their cultivation bases were uneven. How could they withstand such a desperate output of true essence? Boiled the corpse, you idiot! Dirty Corpse shouted loudly, with a very ferocious expression on his face, as if he was about to eat the boiled corpse alive. The plague array has 5 main formation bases and 108 auxiliary formation bases. Originally, there were only a large number of disciples. About half of them entered the formation base. After all, the 5 main formations of this plague formation, each more person who has a similar cultivation base to him, can nearly double the power. But the act of boiling the corpse directly abolished 108 auxiliary formation bases. This formation, with only 2 people, is not as strong as before, and it cannot resist the thunder in the sky and the flames in the ground. Tisk tisk, I'm really not afraid of god-like opponents, but of pig-like teammates. Roha looked at the more than 100 corpse refining sect disciples with a stunned expression and vomited blood and fell to the ground, and looked at the dirty corpse with pity. Even if you have a super intelligence quotient and super strength, you will definitely be pitted when you meet such a teammate. This Nima let the trumpet give away the head. Dang dang is the best sixth man, a proper game. And that boiled corpse looks like Roja's inner response at this time. God is going to kill me. The dirty corpse wanted to cry but had no tears, and cried out in his mouth, slapped the coffin behind him, and more than 40 corpse puppets, all of which launched a suicide attack on Roja. Originally, in terms of the scattered fairyland of dirty corpses, if you want to exert the maximum power of this corpse puppet, you can control up to 5 corpses at the same time. Now this behavior is the last trick of his corpse refining sect. What's the matter? With a puzzled look on Ao Jay's face, he waved the small flags in his hands again and again, but found that there was no reaction at all in the plague formation. He looked around at a loss. More than 100 disciples seemed to have give up the control of the formation. Boil the corpse. You are the sinner of this sect. The dirty corpse glared at the corpse with blood-red eyes, and then rushed towards Roja with his more than 40 corpse puppets without looking back. Ao Jay heard the words of the dirty corpse. His face was full of anger, and he wanted to refute something, but when he saw the behavior of the dirty corpse, his expression showed horror. 3,000 avenues. I'll go to the side door. Don't be afraid of danger. Don't be afraid of other eyes. Dirty corpse muttered words, as if taking an oath. If you read the oath of the sect, this dirty corpse should also have some blood. The yellow fog of the plague formation lost its control and dissipated under the raging thunder of the sky. At this time, even if the dark clouds covered the top, the dazzling thunderlight on the head made the entire corpse refining sect bright. It's a pity, you entered the wrong sect, and your suzerain chose the wrong enemy. Roja shook his head, his body sitting on the Dayu Bagua furnace, did not move, the underground raging in the center of the earth. The green lotus fire quickly gathered and rushed towards the dirty corpse. Although Roja seldom uses it to fight the enemy, it is not because the flame is not strong. In a single comparison, the most rear admiral took the fire in the stone or the fire in the wood, but it was the fire in the center of the earth. Even better. Open it for me. The dirty corpse saw the oncoming azure flames. The expression on his face was extremely grim. His hands formed handprints, and a corpse puppet surged in speed and slammed into it. Boom! The fire waves swept the land, and this corpse puppet actually exploded directly, bursting with power beyond its strength, and forcibly opened up a path to continue going. Fucking human bomb! Roja murmured in a low voice, but there was no shock on his face. With a wave of one hand, the thundercloud in the sky spun rapidly, and a tightly closed eye slowly appeared in the thundercloud. Among some of the surviving disciples of the corpse refining sect fled in a hurry, while others were infected by the words of the dirty corpse. They released all the corpse puppets in the coffin and did the same behavior as the dirty corpse. Roja frowned upon seeing this. A mortal power surged, and the speed of the lightning gathering in the sky suddenly doubled, but he did not want to let anyone go. Chapter 1099 _ The Merit of Maddening People. The face of the sect sinner who boiled the corpse was blushing, and he wanted to refute, but he couldn't say the refutation. Looking at the mighty and unmatched Roja, his figure flashed, and he actually hid into the coffin, flying towards the distance. Mass, is this a slap in the face? Roja's spiritual sense clearly perceived the action of boiling the corpse. This pig is not only stupid, but after selling his teammates, he also runs so fast. The thundercloud in the sky was originally aimed at the corpse that was rushing in, but Roja's mind moved, and the huge sky eyes opened, aiming directly at the corpse that escaped. This kind of thing, he himself is annoying, except that the cultivation base is higher than that of the dirty corpse. There is no advantage in the whole body. Click. The speed of the Great Five Elements extermination divine thunder, which has been brewing for a long time, can even be comparable to some escaping magical powers. Where can a coffin-shaped magic weapon be comparable? The mighty thunderlight instantly drowns the dark coffin. In the eyes of Zhou Tianxing Xingxing, you can clearly see that the coffin was turned into dust and ashes little by little, and the corpse stored in it and the boiled corpse hidden in it, all dissipated without a trace under the thunder. Click, click. After destroying the dirty corpse, The Heavenly Eye, which punished the thunder disaster, released a series of small and large 5-element extinction thunders, aiming at the disciples of the corpse refining sect who were trying to escape, and the destroyers turned them into black ash. Originally under the previous Bingmotion lay, the corpse refining sect disciples who had suffered heavy casualties. In the end there were only more than 50 people who rushed to them, and the leading corpse in the early stage of scattered immortals was even with him. Less than 50 meters apart. "Go to hell," the dirty corpse shouted, with a grim look on his face, which made him look less like a leftist monk, but more like someone who sacrificed his life for all living beings in order to eliminate demons and defend the Tao. Good people. Apart from the corpse puppets sacrificed in order to explode the Earth's green lotus fire, the volcanic fire, and the ghost and mythical creatures yin fire, more than 20 corpse puppets all rushed up, and the corpse's meridians burst into flames, obviously preparing to self-destruct. More than 50 disciples all made the same choice. Since they chose to stay, they were ready to use this last resort when facing an invincible enemy. In the early stage of a loose immortal, plus 50 monks with different cultivation realms, and hundreds of corpses self-destructed, even if it was a tiny loose immortal, if it suffered head-on, I am afraid that there will be no bones left in the explosion, but, for Roja, such a move is really useless. Goodbye Tilda. Roja sat on the edge of the Deu Bagua stove, looking at the dirty corpse that had reached the edge of self-destruction, holding the ear of the Bagua stove with one hand, and waved it gently with the other. Shoo Tilda. With the ability to activate brief with the gossip furnace, he was instantly transferred to hundreds of miles away from the corpse refining sect. Roja clearly saw the look of despair on the face of the dirty corpse. Bang! With a deafening sound of an explosion, a mushroom cloud rose up, mixed with countless broken corpses and bones, swept towards the surroundings frantically. Roja waved one hand and laid a layer of immortal defense in front of him, and the messy fragments clapped the rain cover. It's really disgusting. Looking at the various unknown substances contaminated by the immortal power, Roja had a helpless look on his face. The corpse refining sect, who played with corpses, just couldn't use common sense to protect the mountain. No matter how disgusting people are, even self-destruction is disgusting to the extreme. After a long while, the smoke and dust faded away, and the huge pit with a diameter of hundreds of miles was dozens of miles deep. It seemed that the underground water veins had been blown up. Fuck, there's a treasure trove. Roja was going to disperse the souls of these people first, but looking at the sunken pit, he suddenly thought of a very important point. You must know that in the treasure house of the blood transformation sect, he has obtained countless treasures of heaven and earth, and the dazzling treasures of heaven and earth are enough to refine nearly 1,000 magical treasures. It's a big loss. Roja had a toothache expression on his face, his spiritual sense swept around, and even more reluctantly motivated Zhou Tianxingtong's ability, looking down at a radius of hundreds of miles, but even not a single hair of the treasure was seen. Full of grief, watching the devastated land gradually fill up with water gushing from the groundwater veins, Roja scratched his cheeks, looked at the ghosts floating in the air, and rolled his eyes fiercely. Judian Yule turned into a thunderbolt, and the sunflower water gods and thunders fell from the sky. After all these people were solved, Roja sat on the Deu Bagua furnace and wanted to cry without tears. God knows if there is still a chance in the future to get this. This is an opportunity to sweep the treasure house of the great sect for thousands of years. In fact, what he didn't know was that the corpse refining sect was not like the blood transformation sect. Most of the treasures they collected were used to exchange the materials for making the coffin magic weapon. After all, the coffin is the basic item for practicing the corpse refining sect, and it must be one piece of human hands, and these materials are the most in the treasure house. Basically, the valuable things were collected by the suzerain, and placed in the Naxumi ring, in order to exchange the materials for making the coffin magic weapon with other forces, so there is absolutely no need for a pity. The 100-mile radius turned into a turbid lake, and another seemingly large-scale meritorious deed descended in the sky, and there seemed to be a ray of karma mixed with it during this period. Putting his mind in the system warehouse, Roja almost couldn't help yelling at the sky, 991,000 merits. 1.5 million karma. The karma has increased by 20,000, and it is acceptable if it is improvised. After all, although he did not destroy the area, it has a causal relationship. In the previous battle of the blood sect, at least that sect was stationed, it was a chicken dog. Not to stay, and among these people, it is inevitable that there are one or two good people. But this merit has several meanings. Originally, Roja had a merit of over 750,000, and it took most of the day to get a little over 240,000. You know, this is not one or two leftist monks. Even if it's a Zuo Taoist monk who doesn't have the level of a corpse and a bloodless Taoist, but it's 9,000 points short of it, where do you want to go? Do you still go to help grandma cross the road every day? Besides, there is no merit in helping an old grandmother. Even if there is, it is estimated that it is only a little bit. How can there be so many old grandmothers to let him help? Dad, do you know that you have no friends in the system? You have been waiting for the treasure chest of merit to save your life. Roja leaned on the gossip stove in pain. Will he let him use the gossip stove as a mount after going out? Chapter 1100-innate breathless stone. When others go out, they are either sitting on divine beasts or some kind of exotic beasts. Roja just thinks about riding a stove as soon as he goes out, and he has the desire to fall to the sky. Dayu Bagua furnace is quite beautiful, and even looks quite gorgeous, but what's the matter with riding a stove? Do you show that you can make weapons? Can't this kind of karma be exchanged with merit? Lao Tzu's treasure chest of merit. Roja muttered aloud, angrily trying to turn off the system, but was stunned for a moment. A treasure chest of merit. Karma chest. Damn, why did you forget this one? Roja scolded, looking at the system exchange interface, and sure enough, he saw the exchange option for the karma treasure chest. At that time, when the punishment was imminent, Zishao Shenlei put a lot of pressure on Roja, who was proficient in Lifa. The Lifa that could kill him did not have time to think about this karma treasure box. Karma treasure chest. There is a chance to open karma magic tools, slaughter tools, and karma-related treasures and spiritual materials. It takes 1 million karma to exchange. Roja looked at the description of the karma treasure box, and his eyebrows were wrinkled together. The description of this karma treasure box was very good, very powerful, very perverted, but also very dangerous. When I asked Tao Kunshin about the Zishao Shenlei before, the girl said that when an artifact that is not in the way of heaven is born, it will lead to heaven's punishment. Roja, who still has lingering fears about Zishao Shenlei, really doesn't want to engage in this karma treasure chest, but maybe this thing can give him a little surprise. You must know that although karma is terrible, there are also things like the 12th grade karma Gurren. For the owner, through the Gurren, they can transfer their own karma to the karma Gurren. Gurren's karma can absorb karma and release it to others. Once the flame of karma touches one's body, even Da Luo Jingxian will find it very troublesome. Moreover, according to the situation of the Dayu Bagua furnace, as long as it is not released from the system warehouse, even if it is a treasure of the magic way that is not allowed by the way of heaven will not feel it at all. Rubbing his hands, Roja hesitated for a while, then gritted his teeth and began to speak to the system. System exchange for karma treasure chest. The karma chest was exchanged successfully. The system is so calm at all times, the tone will not change in the slightest, whether Roja will be born again by the punishment, as if it has nothing to do with it. And Roja saw that the color on it was the same as the color of his own karma, and even deeper karma treasure chest. After a bit of pain, he ordered the system again in his heart. System, open the karma treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the treasure chest of karma and obtaining the innate breathless stone. Innate breathless stone. Innate breathlessness stone can block and simulate the karma of oneself or others. Cultivation base, merit, breath. The way of heaven cannot be perceived. The way is difficult to explore. It is the beginning of heaven and earth. The birth of the first leech in heaven and earth. The mother stone fragments can be used to refine all kinds of magic treasures. After refining, the magic treasures have the characteristics of innate breathless stones. Innate breathless stone. Is this something that can be opened from the karma chest? It's really not very acceptable for you to be so serious all of a sudden in the system. Roha heard the sound of the system, with a strong look of joy on his face. What is missing? What did you just say? Come to something that can solve your karma problem. This innate breathless stone, although it cannot completely eradicate the karma in the body, but God knows it, the Tao is hard to find, and it can be regarded as an alternative solution to the problem. The most important thing is that this thing belongs to the innate. It has been a long time since I came to the westward journey world. Roha is very clear about what innate things represent. If you want to refine innate level magic weapons, you must use innate things. Even acquired treasures, many of which are made from innate things. In Journey to the West, the word innate means strength. As long as it is related to these two words, it must be something extraordinary. As far as what Roha has now, there are probably only two things that are considered innate. One is the lotus root of the world-destroying black lotus, and the other is the mosquito beak of the mosquito Taoist. Two things, that is, the pretentious people in Tianting and Lingshan know, and they will go all out to grab it. If a saint is invited to take action, it is a proper innate spiritual treasure. Roha doesn't have a big demand for congenital spiritual treasures for the time being. He still understands the truth of the innocence and guilt. Now that the cultivation level is still low, that kind of thing will only cause him death. And this breathless stone, although it is said that the score is innate, but the top priority, Roha is preparing to refine it into a suitable magic weapon, otherwise he is worried all day long, and he is enough. In this regard, the innate breathless stone alone is completely worth it this time. Besides, the tens of thousands of heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the blood transformation sector now stuffed in the system warehouse, which is enough to put him away. The treasure refining technique has been pushed to an extremely high level. Roha nodded secretly in his heart, with a somewhat satisfied smile on his face. One can't be too greedy, and the difference in merit is not far behind. After completing these official tasks, go to the land of the human race for a walk. The human race, the protagonist of the world, is the place where you can gain a lot of merit. As long as you operate it a little bit and spend some time, I believe that things such as merit are not too difficult to obtain, and then the merit will exceed karma no matter what. VV's brows were wrinkled, and a spiritual sense had already locked him. He opened his spiritual sense and looked thousands of miles away. A female cultivator who could not see the realm was coming quickly. Not being able to see the realm clearly means only two situations for Roha. One is that the cultivation realm of the other party is much higher than his own, and the other is that the other party, like Ao Kunshin, has a magic weapon that can hide his breath. And now that such a big movement has just happened here, those with a low cultivation realm will definitely not come. The spiritual sense can lock him thousands of miles away, and the speed of Tingyan is so fast. All the signs show that this a woman is only afraid that she is much stronger than him. Call out. A blue-green cloud fell straight down from the sky, and a woman in a purple gauze dress frowned and looked at Roha who was sitting on Dayu's gossip stove. This woman has a star-shaped brow and a cold look on her face, which is full of the feeling of refusing people thousands of miles away. She has a 3-foot green blade without a sheath on her back, and her whole body is full of sword intent. Although the appearance is cold, it can't hide the woman's alluring face. Compared with Ao Kunshin, they have their own advantages. They are a little less naughty and cute, and a little more heroic. Yeah, still feel bright.